Good evening, everybody. Sorry for the delay. We had some IT things to take care of. Welcome to the City of Fraser Council meeting for Thursday, August 10th, 2023 at 6:40 PM. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Cindy, could you please take roll call of council?
Councilmember Bransky.
Present.
Councilmember Frankie.
She'll be late, but she will be here.
Mayor Carnegie.
Here.
Councilmember Polka.
Here.
Councilmember Odell.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Shortnick. And Councilmember Sutton.
Here.
Councilwoman Baranski.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Councilmember Shornack.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to excuse Mayor Pro Tem Shornack. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The approval of the agenda. I do have one amendment to the agenda. Item 12A, we're going to postpone that until next month
Second.
to give some other time to do the rating scale and make sure that we do a thorough and complete evaluation.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments and questions on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Councilwoman Baranski.
I'd make a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Oops.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. A citizen participation on an agenda item. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on an agenda item only that you will not be available at the end of the meeting or when it's called up? If this is a business one, you'll have your chance. I'll get you. Okay. Anyone else? I see none. I'll bring it back up to council. The consent agenda. Be looking for a motion for that.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the consent agenda as submitted. Any comments, questions from the audience? Back at council. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item A is the city council meeting, new business is a public hearing. I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing, but just for definition, by rules, we had to have this second public hearing because council voted to have on it before and we didn't have a council. Based on our meeting we did have, when we had the open business, we made the agreement that we will be talking with them, meeting together as a whole team, either subunit of theirs and a subunit of ours, to discuss it. So council will not be taking any action whatsoever on this, but meeting with the industrial, they just wanted to give us an update on where they stand at this point going forward, and we'll get that update, and then we'll be complete with that meeting. So I'll go ahead and open it at 7:43. Oh, I'm sorry, 46.
6:40.
43. It's been a crazy week and a half. Please forgive me.
That's okay.
I don't even have my phone. I got nothing today.
Totally fine.
So, open and industrial reps, would you like to make your statement?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Vincent Serio. I own a building in Fraser on 34401 Commerce. Pay nearly $18,000 a year in property taxes. I've owned a building for 16 years now. I was watching the meeting last time, and you guys mentioned that you got $38 million in COVID money for the school system.
We didn't get it.
The school system did, okay. But on my city tax bill, I'm paying $4,200 in school operations and $1,700 in school debt. So why am I paying that if you guys got the school system got $38 million? I just feel like if you got $38 million, why am I still paying school debt for? Couple ideas I had. to try and make everyone happy or make it feasible for all the citizens to chip in, since we are paying 40% of the income tax or the city tax, was to create a city income tax for all the businesses, for all the employees to pay a city income tax like they have in Detroit or Pontiac. Another idea I had was to create a city business tax where all the businesses that were located in Fraser to pay as part of the industrial repavement of the city. I see Meyer frequently going down my street to pick up salsa. Like, why would they not be obligated if they're using the streets as well as me to pay for that? Another one was cannabis. The city should be open to allow cannabis locations to create state income taxes and jobs to create more revenue and put this in the city. I mean, this is a different era now. I understand elderly people don't really care for cannabis, but if you go to Fraser High School, it's called Heroin High. My nephew went there and he got hooked on that stuff and he ended up passing away from it. My other nieces and nephews, they go to that school and last year they told me they had 3 guns there and knives. So it's not the greatest, safest city like it used to be. Times are a lot different now. So maybe be open to the idea of allowing cannabis in the city now. And the last one I had was to wait until 2025 and hire a good grant writer to apply for the Joe Biden infrastructure plan that you guys mentioned was not available to you in 2025. Those were my ideas, so hopefully we can all work together and come up with a solution to this, because honestly, everyone in here works really hard. I'm sure they work 6-7 days a week, put in 70, 80 hours a week like I do, and I feel like we already pay enough taxes. So we would really appreciate it if you guys would work with us and come up with a good solution, that works for you and works for us.
Yep, that is our plan.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, thank you.
Me again. Jeff Siciliano, 34673 Bennett Drive. By the way, I looked at the video with me talking. Man, you guys were probably counting the ums. I was embarrassed anyways.
I didn't even notice, and
Really?
I watched it after, so I didn't even notice.
Oh, I sure did.
I was
Anyways.
listening to what you were saying.
Well, thanks. That's the important part. So I have a couple questions. First of all, how long does it take for the council meetings, like the special meeting we had on the 25th? How long does it take for video or minutes to be published, or will it be published?
Minutes, it usually has to be done by the next meeting because they're voted on and approved in the consent agenda. So they have to go out to council. If there's any comments or questions, to amend them for some reason.
Okay.
They do, but usually it's completed before the next council.
What about the video of the meeting? Would that typically?
Oh, that's usually on right away.
On YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube on
Okay,
the
so I'll double check, but today I looked, and what I found was the last meeting for Fraser City Council was 7:20, which was, I don't even, it was kind of special meeting or something. So I didn't see the 25th on there, but I'll check again, but if it's not, it should be on there. The 25th meeting? Okay, perfect, and I'll double check.
Usually it's the
Thank you.
following Monday that they're for sure on there by, but
Okay, wonderful, thank you. The other thing is, I don't know if it's the clerk or the manager, I'm sorry, but somebody, I assume, received the petitions we had? That was you, okay. And does the council know that you received those?
yes, we all get every one of them.
Okay,
one
okay,
of
just
them.
wanted to make sure you guys knew the force behind us, so that you know that, as all the things we've talked about are coming to.
Yeah, there hasn't
fruition.
been one yes, let me tell you that.
Yes, except for that one, I guess. So,
Okay, you got it, we're gonna do it. All in favor?
don't, they're going to kill me when I leave the place. Anyways, so I'm kind of, I guess, representing some of the building owners. We've been meeting, and we've, discussed some various things and some various options. As Vince has said, that some of the options that we're looking at, some other things that we've talked about. But I think what we really want to do is, you guys suggested in that meeting that you guys have a subset council, and I can't remember exactly who was on it, and you guys were willing to put together a team, we are going to put together and are currently creating a working group. Okay, so we don't have 70 people in the meeting.
Right.
It's just not going to be productive that way. So what we'd like to ask you guys is two things. Because I'm representing the group, and they can certainly talk if they wanted to, but we'd like to know if you guys could provide who are the three, by the way?
Myself, Councilwoman Baranski.
Yeah, okay, so we were wondering if you guys could provide a schedule or available dates that you have over the next month or two that we could get together with you, with our group and your group to start planning what we can do. So I guess you could probably send it to me. So I'm kind of been the information gatherer, and then I can spread it out to the rest of the folks, if that's okay with everybody.
Our email addresses are right on, but there are email we can send them to, or they're right on the city site. They go right to the city, then to our phones.
You want me to?
If you want to email us directly, yeah.
I can ask you for the available dates, you mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
then I'll do that.
So it's,
Like, you send some dates and we can be like, yes, yes, no, you know what I mean?
comes from,
Well, yeah, I'm just wondering if it's easier, I don't know who's busier, you guys or us guys, so, right?
Probably both busy.
Yeah,
We'll-
probably
We'll make
both.
room for this.
we're all busy, but us three will be glad to do what we can.
Okay, so I'll work with you through email and see if we can figure out some dates that can work for us to get together. Now, are you guys willing to, or okay if you come up to one of our places?
Absolutely.
Okay, I think we talked about that before, too. I'm also asking if you guys would consider, please, not have any more agenda items on the meetings regarding this industrial road work until the groups have met and we've had a chance to talk with you. Is that
Yeah, that,
doable?
as I explained, this one had to go on there because we already voted to have it on.
Right. I
Otherwise-
just don't want to have one show up next meeting because, God, it's going to be September.
Yeah, it won't. Ms. Levin and I do the agendas, and we're on the same page, and if council, I'm sure, is on the same page too, so we won't be having.
Okay, wonderful. Well, that's all I have. That's all I have.
Yeah, put your team
Stay here for
together,
another
we're
45
ready to
seconds.
get going, so.
Yes.
Now you gotta get everybody else to say yes, right? Anybody else? Okay, I will close the meeting at 7:52. Mr. Null, did you have a comment?
I did. I just want to let the speaker know, when you go to the YouTube channel for the City of Fraser, it's not readily available under videos. So click on the word live and then go through a couple of meetings. And it's the 5th meeting in right now on live instead of under videos or under home. Another way you can find it if you're looking for the last meeting video is type in YouTube, July 25 City of Fraser Council meeting, and it'll come right up. So there's 2 ways to get to it. It just doesn't show up when you immediately go to the videos section. You have to-
Perfect.
you have to look for it 2 different ways.
Thank you.
Under live,
Live.
live.
Councilwoman Baranski.
Yeah, just, so we had to have the public meeting, and our plan, we had already, Mr. Odell, Councilmember Odell and I had discussed, if you wanted, we were 100% in favor of having a meeting with the subcommittee and inviting and including the AEW, so that we're making sure whatever we are talking about when it comes to roads is feasible from the expert's perspective, because I don't know what is required, and you presumably don't, you're in a different business industry, so we want to make sure of that. So 100%, just circulate some dates, and we will make ourselves available. We have already met repeatedly, so we are very anxious to get a solution that everyone can tolerate. No one's going to love it, but it's going to be better than what was proposed, because that was the starting point, and the goal is to get you better roads. So just had to, I couldn't speak during the public hearing, so.
We're not paying his wages. to
Yeah,
come to a
no,
meeting.
we don't want to pay him.
We're trying to save money to build roads.
But we
Sorry,
can run
Don.
anything by him in terms, because we do, actually, that's a really good point thank you, because we can run any questions we have by him so that he could get us answers that we could then filter back to you.
Yeah.
Because one of the things we discussed at the last meeting, and I don't know if anyone did get the answer, so I would like to get the answer before we meet, and I'm presuming probably we're going to meet early September, late August. Can we do a special assessment if we did individual roads within the industrial complex, where only, how would we do that? Would it be the entire complex paying for it, or only those property owners who abut the road would pay for it. Because that was one of the proposals, to piecemeal it. And how would that cost be shared, I think was the one solution that we needed to make sure of. I can't remember what the other one was.
I think once we get closer to a final fix, then we can bring the attorney in just to, cross the Ts and dots the Is and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, I just don't know, because, well, we're learning, right? So what we thought we could do, and then as we find out, so because we didn't ask the bond attorney, I think is who actually, it's not even Mr. Denault, as much as he knows a lot, he doesn't maybe have that expertise. What we can do, because we don't want to mislead and say, yeah, let's piecemeal it, and then it's only those property owners paying it, and so forget paying 900, they're now paying 1,200 because it's only 30 of you instead of 121 of you. So that information is power, in my opinion. So when we know what we can do and what the consequences are, then when we meet, we'll have better opportunities.
And maybe they can give us some other ideas too.
Yeah. So send it.
Or even the bond people, maybe they can even give up for some. Sure.
Oh, perfect. Awesome.
Okay. Okay. Thank you much, guys. You're more than welcome to stick around for all the fun stuff. Good.
Thank you. See a lot of you soon.
Man, I didn't have to call on Ken today. Item B, fiscal year 2021-22 audit presentation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
There's a room faster than the auditor being. All right, my name is Alan Panter. I'm a partner at Yo & Yo, and I'm here to present the audit. The materials that you have that I passed out this evening, you have the bound audited financial statements in front of you. You have another smaller bound document that looks kind of like this. This is my presentation, and I'll be following this evening as I go through. What I'm showing you here has my notes, so it looks a little different, but you get the idea. And there's also a stapled letter that goes with that. I call that the governance letter. So this is the part where I usually start off.
Sorry, interrupted. We don't have digital put on a screen for the residents?
No. Yeah, okay. Right, not the presentation. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so this is the part where I usually say that the audit went great, and thank you to everybody for all their hard work. And so there was a lot of hard work that went into the audit, but I can't say that the audit went great, because here we are in August talking about a fiscal year that ended over 13 months ago. So the audit was over 7 months late to the state. It was recently submitted. This is the third year in a row that the City of Fraser has been late with their audit. This is the first time that it's been this late. It's been a couple months late, but still, the Department of Treasury takes a very dim view of late audits. So that's definitely something that you should be aware of. So ultimately, the city had to bring in some temporary help to get the books cleaned up for 2022 and get the audit done. That person did a great job, but she's no longer here. I understand that there's been a new person hired, so that's a positive step. But because the city's been in catch-up mode for so long, it makes me wonder what the state of the books is now. So we're through a fiscal year. We didn't even get the beginning balances validated at all. So I'm very worried about where your books are in 22, 23. We haven't even looked at that. So that's so we'll see how that is going forward. Hope the new person coming in definitely has her work cut out for her. So one of our responsibilities as auditors is to review not only the numbers, but to look at the internal controls and certain aspects of legal compliance, and to report in writing when we note certain things. So as you might suspect, because of the late audit and the general level of difficulty that we encountered, that we do have internal control findings that we identified, as well as some comments for management's consideration as well. And I plan to address those specifically as I go through my presentation this evening. So my plan for this evening is to give you an overview of the audit. I got a couple of graphs to show you some financial trends and discuss the governance letter and the internal control issues. So please interrupt me with questions at any time. So the first page, I'm going to turn the page of the presentation. The first page is referencing the independent auditor's report.
Audit opinion.
Pardon?
You're on audit opinion?
I'm on the page that says audit opinion.
Is it the staple or is it the binder?
The small bound copy, the small bound document.
This one.
And I'm going to go through that one page at a time. Yep.
So it's the binder.
The small bound copy.
Got it.
Yep. Yep. The first page says independent, it says audit opinion. Okay? All right. The purpose of an audit is to give you an opinion on your financial statements, not to detect fraud and not to give assurance on internal control. So it's a very important concept about what it is that we're here to do. We're here to give you an opinion on your financial statements, which is what you see referenced here. We're giving what's called an unmodified or clean opinion. That is the best opinion you can get, and it means a couple of things. It means, first of all, the statements are formatted in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So in other words, everything that's supposed to be in the statements is there. And the other thing that it means is based on the procedures that we perform, the numbers are good. So unmodified opinion is definitely what you want to see, okay? So I'm going to turn the page, and I have, the next 2 pages are some graphs. And you can see that they're both 5-year comparisons, and I've kind of broken the financial activity of the city into 2 different categories. The first page here deals with governmental revenues and expenditures, and so that's your general fund, major local streets, ambulance fund, district court, capital projects fund, that kind of stuff. The next page is dealing with enterprise funds. That's your water, sewer, and your senior housing fund, okay? So first we're going to talk about the governmental funds. And of course, all this information is at least a year old, so it makes it a little bit questionable in terms of its value, but I'm really just trying to point out some trends here. So in the first graph, you can see that, well, first of all, the blue bar is the revenues, the orange is the expenditures, and then your fund balance is the orange line. You can see that the revenues have exceeded the expenditures each year, so that produces the upward slope in the fund balance. So that means that the city is living within its means, so that's a good thing. And it also means that, and also you see that the fund balance in 2022, the fund balance is now higher than your revenues and your expenditures for a year. So what that means is you could theoretically operate for an entire year in those funds without receiving any additional revenue. Theoretically, I don't advise that. So the city is in solid financial condition, at least as of a year ago. All right, so the next page says enterprise
I'm
funds.
sorry, but that's still a little bit frustrating for me. But
What's that?
we know that a year ago, but that's a little frustrating for me that we don't know now.
Sure, sure. Understand completely.
We need to address that right away.
Yes, sir. Okay, so I'm on the page that says enterprise funds. So this is a 5-year graph of revenues, expenses, and net position in the city's water and sewer and also the senior housing fund. So this graph is a little bit different, and some of the terminology I just used is different on purpose. You can see that the revenues and expenses are there. You can see the unrestricted net position, that's basically your fund balance. You can see that starts off as a negative on the left, and it's sloping upward very nicely. So that's great. And then you can see the net investment in capital assets. So what that is the amount of your water and sewer system mainly, minus depreciation, minus any debt that's against it, okay? So it goes up when you invest in your water and sewer system. It goes down when you have depreciation, which is normal. And it also goes up when you have debt payments. So the fact that line is sloping flat to upward tells me that your annual investments plus your debt payments is more than your depreciation. So that's good. You're keeping up on the maintenance of your system. Okay, that's important. The other thing that I see here is that your revenues exceed your expenses every year. So that's good. That looks to me like a structural surplus, which is a good thing to have in these funds because, of course, you want to generate those funds because you know that you're going to have to spend the money on maintenance, improvements, and that sort of thing. And if you have the money in fund balance, that's better than having to borrow or raise rates. okay, to make those needed improvements to your system. So you want to have that fund balance on hand to be able to do that. So that's good. So your enterprise funds, especially your water and sewer system, are in improving financial position. So that's a good thing. All right, so the next thing is the governance letter. So that's the stapled letter that I passed out that you have with you. I have it summarized in the presentation though. So the governance letter is a required communication. We issue it with every audit that we do, and it's addressed to management and the city council. So most of the letter is a form letter, but it also communicates several significant issues that are related to the audit. The letter discloses any estimates used in preparing the financial statements, and there are a couple. Any new accounting standards. We did have a new accounting standard this year called GASB 87 with leases. Discusses any difficulties or disagreements we had with management, any misstatements we noted, and if we had any management letter comments, internal control findings, those are also here as well. So I'm going to turn the page, and I'm going to talk about internal control findings. So we have 2 internal control findings this year, both of which are being communicated as what we call a material weakness. A material weakness is really the most significant type of internal control issue that an auditor could tell you about. It's really indicative of an issue that really just needs immediate attention. The first one has to do with audit adjustments and error corrections. When the audit started this year, or as it completed, there were over $4.6 million in adjustments that were identified by us in the prior year that had not been posted to the city's general ledger. So we gave the city journal entries as of June 30th, 2021. They were not posted completely or correctly to the extent of $4.6 million that had to be reposted by the contract accountant this year. So that's that basically means that the financial reports that you've been seeing for the last 2 years are incorrect. That's what that means. Also, there were new entries this year identified by us of about $880,000. So those are communicated there. So that's a material weakness when we find significant errors in the books. The next one has to do with the audit being not filed timely. And what we're doing here is we're talking about the control environment. The control environment is the overall environment in which your internal controls operate. And when we look at that, you know, there was basically, sorry, I write these notes and then I start talking and then I go back into these notes. You know, it was caused obviously by there was turnover in the assistant city manager's position. But even before she left, I felt like she was behind on a lot of things. We weren't getting the information that we needed. As she left, as I said before, it was necessary for the city to bring a temporary contract employee. She did a great job. But there's also several of our management letter comments that we're going to talk about on the next page that are repeats from the prior year. So what that tells me is that there wasn't the appropriate attention placed on those management letter comments. So the fact that they have repeat and multiple management letter comments tells me that that's part of the control environment. And of course, with the audit being 7 months late, that just tells me that the overall controlled environment was not good. So we're communicating that as a material weakness as well. So that's there.
I have a question, Alan. I don't know if it's you that I talked to during the audit.
It was.
Okay. When we talked about, like you said, some of the things that needed to be done before the audit that weren't even done, does the city not have a timeline understanding that these documents need to be done by this time? So you're ready for an audit? Do we not understand that? Do you know?
Well, part of the problem is that you may have one person that understands it, but when they leave, they walk out the door with that knowledge. So that's very difficult. So employee turnover is a very difficult thing, you know. So I think that the people that you've had here were competent to do the jobs that they were hired to do, you know, but for whatever reason, it just wasn't getting done.
Right.
So.
Okay.
All right. So the next page is matters for management's consideration. So these are items that we believe are not as severe as the material weaknesses that I just talked about. But they're still important enough to bring them up. The first 4 comments are repeated from the prior year, So that's part of my concern that I just communicated, that they had not been addressed, but I'll go through them anyways. So the first one, written policies and procedures. The city needs to adopt an electronic transactions policy to be in accordance with state law. So there's a state law out there that says that you need to have an electronic transactions policy. We have example policies of that. You can see what the state law is. It's pretty clear what needs to be done. So we just recommend that you do it. We're also recommending some documentation of certain accounting procedures, but in my mind, that's a whole lot less important than the compliance with state law. We can have that go away next year if you guys just adopt that electronic transactions policy. Michigan escheat laws. There are laws for unclaimed property that the city is not following. There are reconciling items on the city's bank reconciliations that are several years old that should be sent to the state as unclaimed property, so that's not happening. Tax disbursements. The city's required to disperse property tax collections made on behalf of other governments. So you're collecting property taxes for the school and the state and just anybody. You guys are collecting property taxes on behalf of a lot of other governments. Those taxes are supposed to be distributed to those other governments within 10 days of the 1st and the 15th of every month. So during the active tax collection cycle, of course. So that is, we could see that wasn't being done. And then capital asset administration. There's a listing of capital assets, so that's the buildings and the cars and the equipment and all that stuff. We can see that there's a lot of old assets on there, then we recommend that somebody go through and eliminate old assets, things that you don't have anymore, and make adjustments for those. The next three are new. Segregation of duties. We look at credit cards. And last year we looked at the credit cards specifically, but we followed up on it this year. And we found that the same person is preparing, reviewing, and approving the credit card transactions. So that's not an ideal setup in terms of how you design your internal controls. Bank reconciliations. There were two issues we saw with the bank reconciliations. First of all, we saw deposits in transit of up to 41 days. What that means is you got deposits that are being recorded in the general ledger, but they're not going into the bank for 41 days. So that means you've got the money sitting here. Somebody has that money sitting here, and it hasn't been taken to the bank. Okay, that's a open door for fraud. That's not a good thing to be happening. You don't want to have. When I see deposits in transit, I want to see 1 or 2 days, maybe, and not very many of them, not 41 days, and a whole list of them. So that's what happened. And the bank reconciliations are not being reviewed by someone in management. Someone's doing the bank reconciliations, but nobody's reviewing them. Somebody needs to review those bank reconciliations. And the last one is accounts receivable. The city has an accounts receivable listing that the building department has, and it contains quite a few items that are over a year old, which I would question their collectability. So somebody needs to go through those receivables and clean up that list. If you have any questions, that's all I have.
Well, it started okay, now.
I'm sorry, sometimes these get a little tough.
No, I understand. It's just frustrating. Councilman Odell.
All right, got quite a few, but starting off with the $4.6 million that wasn't recorded, just technical, I know you guys audit, you take a sampling of things.
Right.
Because you guys did our audit the prior year, was that not caught in the prior audit? Because
No, so those were adjustments that we proposed in the prior year that were not posted.
okay, so
so
you
we
guys
gave
said
this-
you got to make these adjustments, and they were not done.
Correct. We
Okay.
gave the city the list of adjustments and said, here's the adjustments, post them, and they didn't post them.
Gotcha.
And the aggregate amount was about 4.6 million.
Okay.
So those were things that we did identify.
Now, you mentioned different people have different knowledge. Obviously, it would be very beneficial to have deposits happen. Each person's lanes, job responsibilities, typed out, a calendar done at this time of the month, you have to do bank reconciliations. This is the time the year end has to be done, that type of thing. So no matter who's going through the door, we have a blueprint, so somebody can step in and know. I mean, would you say that's that's lacking.
And, well, and that's part of the recommendation that we made. One of the management letter comments that we made is that we recommended that you guys document those procedures. And that's the main benefit of doing that, is that you can hand somebody now a blueprint to say, this is basically how you do your job.
And
These are
actually,
the
pretty much every job should have that, but especially in finance.
You'd really like that. You'd really
Okay.
like that. But-
So-
But it's, I understand that it's a tough thing to allocate the time for.
And so you mentioned, and again, this is over a year old that you're reviewing, but signing off on like department head credit card transactions, you're always supposed to have a second set of eyes on these, correct, to detect fraud.
Correct.
Did you make recommendations like, okay, let's say I have DPW turning in, hey, he approves the credit card, and who's supposed to be checking that? Are all those, have those been recommended in the past, or with this audit that, or the city manager, if she has charges that she's signing off on, there still should be a second set of eyes?
Right, so
looking
last
at
year
that?
we looked at this, and this year was just a follow-up of what we looked at last year. So we did have an issue last year with the credit cards. As far as telling you guys, we can tell you guys that you have a missing control. It's not my place to tell you how to
fix
do
it.
the control.
Right.
So I would not offer a recommendation of, this person needs to do this or this person needs to do that. I simply say, you're not having anybody review it. You should have somebody review it.
Okay. And then finally, it's obviously our finance department needs a lot of work here. So, I'd like to propose that we have some sort of training done, presumably with Yao and Yao. It would be money well spent to look at having them come in and do some training, since we got a new finance person. We got to get the new audit up. I think we should direct in looking at getting some of that training, because otherwise we're doing the same thing over and over again and just leaving us up for liability. We need to have these controls in place. So, I would propose, I'm not making a motion, but we direct to look into that, because there's obviously some training that's missing here, and procedures that have to be in place for the future physical responsibility of the city to have. So that's my comments.
There's a lot. I just have a couple, I think, I've been up here a long time, so I know in the past, we've actually, I think once I actually proposed that we get a monthly, the financial person actually shows up at the city council meetings and gives an update, but we used to always request bank reconciliations every month. Remember? I mean, it was mandatory that they reported that to us every month, and, and if it was getting out of control, we knew it. When they were saying, oh, we're 10 or 15, and when, at one time, I remember we were like 200-300 behind. So it was actually crazy. We made some changes, but in turning over people, it's like everything's just stopped, and I got to start again. And I know that it's just been totally dropped. So what do we do? We're a year behind. What do we do now to fix it? Do we start the audit, new audit like right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, the person coming in has her hands full, because, the contract employee, she was looking at 2022. I'm not sure how far she got into 2023, if at all. But you've got an entire fiscal year there that, is going to need a lot of help. I mean, the receipts have been coming in and the checks have been going out. So, that's been happening the whole time. But it's the whole layer of adjusting for, your larger, more significant transactions, booking depreciation, recording your, the activity in your, the MERS plan, all of those sorts of things. Those are significant things that aren't reflected in just cash coming in and coming and going. Okay, so it's those things that really need to be paid attention to. So she's got a big job ahead of her. I would think that, one person, that's an awful lot to expect, because they're also going to be trying to deal with what's happening right now, but they've also got to be looking back to try to, make sense of a fiscal year that's over.
I mean, that person has to be dedicated to that job only and not other.
They do. Yep. And they might need some help.
Yeah, no, and you and I had straightforward conversation, so I think we both know some of the issues and we need to address them, so I do appreciate it. Councilwoman Blanco, you were next.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, first of all, and presenting this.
You're welcome.
And I'd like to just make a public comment about what Councilman Odell said and Mayor Carnegie. Exactly, that's the truth, and you know this in other municipalities and businesses. As the door revolves, you have no control. And what and you made the suggestion of training and writing and keeping policy and all that, and it sounds terrific. But in the real world, how often is that really done? You tell me, because you do this for a living at other entities also, correct? So you can notice that, and you can say, you can point a finger even, and you can judge people, and you can use such words as inept, or they let it slide, or they didn't do their job. And it's that, in that judgment, that doesn't solve anything. It's just like with us up here. Everything changes at some point, okay? So I think I just want to make that public statement because I feel confident and comfortable with what our city manager has done. Elaine, I compliment you. Yes, it was a bad, it was an interesting and had its ups and downs with our finance in the last year. Absolutely, we all know that. From a criminal investigation to a departure, we get that part. But I feel very confident that I've been in to speak with Elaine and others, and it will, we will fix it. Obviously, once you point it out, we will correct it. Right, Elaine?
Absolutely.
Pardon?
Absolutely.
And I know you're on it already, and you have been. I just wanted to clarify that because it's easy to look at something like this and then publicly on social media or within whatever, we're not the bad guys, you're not the bad guys. It is what it is, as trite as that sounds, but we can only try to correct what we've got right now. Thank you.
I can tell you, to answer your question, from my experience with other municipalities, and I do work with quite a few other municipalities, turnover has been a real problem, and not just here at Fraser. It's been a real problem. There's a lot of cities, a lot of counties, school districts out there looking for qualified, competent financial professionals. There's a lot of people looking for that. I think that maybe something that would help you is if you consider elevating that position in terms of pay, and maybe expanding that department. So putting more resources into that area might be a helpful thing. But the other thing that I want to say to respond to you is that everyone that we worked with at the city was very helpful, competent. Everybody was doing their best. Okay. There was some turnover that happened and some issues that took place, but everybody that we worked with was doing their best. I have no doubt about that.
Thank you.
It goes back to my own saying, the right person in the right seat. And so far, I don't think we've found that right person.
Well, maybe we have. We just don't know it yet.
Right. Councilwoman Kolka.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for putting this together. Obviously, it's pretty eye-opening, because I know that we have been battling some of these issues just from a personal perspective of myself being here over the last 6 years. And I know that what you say, I mean, obviously, it's good to know that we're not the only ones having trouble getting good qualified people. And I agree. I think given this, we really should put more resources towards this issue, because if we're 7 months behind, all these issues, I mean, this is why we had the criminal investigation to begin with, because we had a similar issue that, needs to be addressed immediately. And so, these are very concerning, but I get it. I mean, I totally get it. We, as the majority of our council people up here, I mean, we overhauled every department head is new. So we just haven't been able to find that finance director that is a good fit. And hopefully, with our new hire, that is going to change. However, as you said, they have an uphill battle. And, you know, if they're going to be working 25,000 hours a week, they're going to get burned out. And then they're going to find another job that pays a little bit more. So it's kind of like, how do you keep people here so that we can get back caught up, if you will? So I am in favor of really looking at this over the next few months, putting more resources towards it so that we can get caught up. Ellen, when did you say that the actual audit is due again?
It's due 6 months after the year end. So your June 30th year end is due December 31st.
Okay,
every year.
so we really should be working on 2023 or 2022 right now.
2023, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, up through,
Yeah. 22, 23, yeah.
yeah,
Right.
the fiscal year, not the calendar year.
We have you guys on our schedule for November.
Okay,
So we're planning on doing the audit in November, turning it around by December. That's our plan. But that's going to be a tall mountain to climb for you guys.
okay, all right. Well, I appreciate that, and, you know, I think we really should talk about this, because I really think that because of the turnover that we've had, everyone is stretched very thin, everyone is trying to, you know, they're working hard, but I do think that the time has come where we really do, this is the third year in a row, I mean, we really got to put some resources into it, I think. We've got the fund balance, I believe. So the fund balance, we have about 18% of our, in our fund balance, and the 18% is a good number. Is that true?
So I usually recommend 15 to 18% as a minimum.
Okay,
Okay, and you're talking about your general fund, I
that's
assume?
correct, yes,
Percentage of expenditures?
yes.
Okay, so that's okay. It's not great.
Okay.
But still, I mean, I don't think that you would need to commit the level of resources that would move the needle in terms of that metric.
Sure,
you know.
okay.
I think we're talking about a smaller, more incremental move, but it would still help.
Right, and in the audit itself, financially, even though we're a year behind, it looks good.
Sure.
In terms of the expenditures and our revenue.
Right. As the graph.
So
says.
even though we've been late, we've got some problems, we're doing well as a city. So we've got that, because we were really in rough financial shape 6 years ago. And now it's really, and I saw your projections, or the amount of changes. Even our OPEB, or our MERS is even better now. I think we're 59% funded, as opposed to, I believe it was 2018, we were like 40% funded or 43% funded. So we've made some good strides in trying to get into a position financially that has been great. So we just need to shore these up. So I think, I mean, this is doable. This is not, you know, this is really very easy if you think about it. Even though it's a mountain to climb to get caught up, it's really easy. It's something that we can, you know, you can, what is the word I'm looking for? It's like, it's measurable. No, it's not measurable. You can,
Attainable?
it's not even attainable. I can't think of
We
what
like
it is, but anyway, it's not like you're trying to hit a moving target. These are easy things to fix, in other words. So, I mean, I think we can do it too, and I think we could get this done by December if we really thought about what we need, and we get a plan together, and even if we have to get somebody temporarily in here to get us all caught up, I think we need to do that. I think going into next year, we need to be 100% caught up, and I think that would help anybody coming into the job as well, because nobody wants to come into somebody else's mess. So I think that's a big, I think that would be a big step forward in keeping people here, so that they're not working a ton of hours and feeling overwhelmed and then leaving. So thank you again, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we have to give everybody the tools to do the job and do it efficiently. And if we don't do that, we never get caught up. Councilwoman Sutherland.
I talk a little bit slower than usual, but I'm very passionate about this topic, and I want to make sure that I'm very, very clear. As far as training goes, I agree that if we find the right people with the right resources and tools, right, we might not necessarily need training, though, from Yo and Yo, because as you said, you can give us the problems, but not maybe necessarily tell us how to fix it. These are a roadmap, and for any of you who have ever used Waze on your phone, if you disregard what Waze says and you go a different way, it will reroute you. But if you ignore it, then you can't expect to maybe get the fastest route, because you're ignoring the information that you have been given. If we received some of this information 2 years ago and things still haven't been done, I don't think that it's a fair statement to say, it is what it is, we have no control. I mean, that's something that you say if some devastating, like the wildfires in Hawaii, right? That there's no control, right, for those people. But things where you've been warned and you see that they're coming, there is control over that. There is action that you can take. There's accountability also. So for me, I have a team of people that work for me, and I work in regulatory compliance, where we have very strict deadlines, and if those deadlines aren't met, there are stiff fines and penalties by the regulators for the company. So if someone on my team were to leave, that doesn't change the deadline of that deliverable. I still have to file these annual reports. I still have to file license renewals. I need to know what my team members are doing so that if somebody walks out the door, those things are still completed. To me, that is what's missing. So you can say that you didn't know or this should have been done, but if we're getting the same results, that's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So the things that are missing to me are the accountability, and we can't just trust. Someone's in that seat, we think we hired the right person, so we're just going to trust that they're doing it. No, there's trust and verify. You're verifying that they are meeting these deliverables, they are meeting these deadlines, and that if they were to leave, you could pick up that ball and you could run with it, or give that next person that's coming into the seat the tools and the information that they need so they wouldn't feel overwhelmed, so that they wouldn't be drowning or cleaning up someone's mess.
That's called audit the auditor.
Well, and
Used to do it in my business.
it's also, called organizational management as far as leadership oversight, right? I mean, I know what the people who report to me are doing every day. I meet with them every week. I know what their deliverables are. We discuss what their goals are for the week. If one of them were to leave, I would be extremely bummed, but I would be able to work 70 hours and get done what I've asked them to do.
What if
So-
you're already working 70 hours?
Well, then I guess I don't sleep, or I'm up on Red Bull, or like to your point, we bring in somebody else to help. But if I needed those resources, that's something where I would also go to my leader and say, hey, I'm working 70 hours, I'm trying to get this done, and I still can't get it done. I wouldn't just say, oh, well, it hasn't been done, it hasn't been on time 3 years in a row. That is for us to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So this makes me sweat a little bit from passion and being upset, because this is not okay. This is not what our residents deserve, for us to be writing checks and not know what's in the bank confidently. That's all I got.
I think one of the first things the new person should do, one of the first things, is read the last two audits and get a real good picture of what they're facing, which would be a smart move.
We should get just somebody else in here to help instead of making them do it all.
At least even just
Councilwoman Baranski.
get caught up.
I have questions. I don't have a speech yet. So, because I'm trying to solve some problems. Why do we no longer have the temps? We had the temps.
Do still have them.
Okay, good. So the good news, we have, and they're working on the audit already.
So Kathy, who is our audit temp, she completed everything and got everything submitted to them. And she's still here right now, trying to close things up. My plan, I would love to keep her on to do the next audit, and not only do that, but also prepare the next person that's coming in to train her, because with her background, she has governmental experience, but it's Canadian government experience. She's going to need to learn U.S. government. We also have the kind of finance treasurer temp that's still in the office for about a month, so thinking about it from the perspective that she's been doing things like the tax bills and dealing with accounts payable, all of the non-budget related things. So she's been already preparing kind of all of the work plans and everything, getting organized for the new person coming in. They're going to have a great opportunity to be able to work together and be able to really hand off this job. I've asked her and I've asked Kathy to put together calendars so that we have schedules of everything. I'm not a CPA, I'm not a finance person. Yes, ultimately, these people work for me and they're responsible for me. I think that's all I'm going to say about that.
Nope, that's good. So I just wanted to make sure.
Leaving HR matters out of this.
No, 100%. 'Cause I just heard someone say we didn't have them, and I'm like, wait, what? Just because we hired someone, until she's in that seat at a
I would
minimum.
love to be able to keep
Okay.
the audit temp on.
Perfect.
I've talked to her. She thinks she can probably get all of the documents and everything uploaded within about a month or so, because she's found where everything is. We have all of the access to all the online accounts and everything that we need to be able to get access to, that, we've been locked out and trying to fight to get access again after Sarah left because of the two-factor authentication. It has just been a nightmare with just all of the levels of stuff. There's so much, and things weren't even fully changed over and processed from when Vince left to Sarah. So it has been definitely an uphill climb, and I'm trying to make it easier for this next person coming in.
Okay, second question. And I think it'll be for you. I'm not really sure. So you said that the credit card still only had a one-person control. And we adopted a policy. I just don't know when to know if it was.
I feel like there might be some things that Kathy, when she was working on the audit, maybe did not convey to you, because right now, the way that we had the credit card set up is that there is the separation. So one person processes them, and I look over and review all of those credit
Right.
cards. So
And there
I don't
might-
know if there's
That's what I
some
wanted to just make
other
sure
measure
what we're
that's
doing
missing.
now.
There might be a timing issue there.
Okay.
There
'Cause
might be.
Obviously, that's a very
'Cause we're looking at an
sensitive.
entire fiscal year,
Last year.
and it's,
For the year
Yeah.
that you reviewed, there
Yeah.
was.
So it could have been the beginning of the prior year.
it
That
could
was
be.
adopted.
Probably it's like 2.5 years ago to a year and a half ago you're looking at.
It could be.
Okay.
And then also one other complication with this audit is the change that we had in the chart of accounts. So our audit temp had to undo a bunch of stuff that was done, get it all recorded, and then she has to redo it all to get it back to where it was. So that was something that was very time consuming and created a whole new set of problems that we shouldn't have any other year. It was just something unique to this year. So that was
Okay.
un
An extra hurdle.
yeah.
Then the question for you, so you indicated that there were $4.6 million in adjustments that were proposed that weren't done. I am not an accountant. Put it in layman's terms. Does that mean in any way that the bottom line numbers are different? Like, do we have 4.6 million more or less, or?
Well, that's exactly what it means.
Okay, tell me.
It means, but it doesn't mean that it's all in one direction.
Ah.
It means that there were adjustments that affected income by $4.6 million.
Okay,
Okay. And most of the adjustments were non-cash items, things like depreciation.
Oh.
Things like booking your MERS activity for the year, not cash. We're not talking about money coming in, money going out. We're talking about, but these are big ticket items.
no, I get that, yeah.
Yep.
But it wasn't like we have 4.6 extra million dollars and.
No.
Okay.
No.
But we have to make sure they are accounted for in the right column, the right way, at the right time.
You got to make sure that those adjustments get posted. When the
Got it.
auditors give you adjustments, or when the auditor gives the city adjustments,
Yep.
I should say, they got to get posted.
Okay, and then, one more question for you. You referenced that, the electronic transactions policy. That is something that Yo and Yo already has the template for, such that the city manager and the attorney could present it to council, council adopts it, then that's complied with.
Simple, yeah. I got
Perfect.
that land, I can email that to you very easily.
Perfect.
It's a very straightforward policy.
And for the balance of the matters for management's consideration, it's more just doing what, I think you made a comment that everyone that was in the position knew what they were doing, but for whatever reason, they just didn't do everything they should have done.
Or they weren't here.
Or they weren't here, fair enough, valid. Each of the balance of these things, besides adopting a policy, is just a matter of doing it, right?
Correct.
Okay, so it's not something that structurally has to change with regard to how it's set up. It's people have to do what they're supposed to do.
I question.
And I know you can't give me the answer because.
No, I can give you a little bit, because I do question whether, the people in this position have been overloaded. Whether
Fair.
there's too much that's been placed on them, like the previous assistant city manager had a huge human resources piece that was on her that was
Yep.
very difficult for her she just couldn't handle all those things. So So that's very difficult. You know, you've got enough going on here at the city that it really warrants a full-time financial, you know.
Fair. And we fixed that, just so you know. So next year, hopefully, for the prior year, you'll be like, yep, check, check, check. Okay.
Good.
That, I think, is all my questions. So I'm in 100% agreement that keep the staff we have to get current, to give our new person what hopefully will be a softer landing. And then if in fact, after everyone's there, if there's training needed or additional educational opportunities, then absolutely, because that is so fundamentally important to everything. And I think a lot of the other pieces have now gotten in place. So hopefully, with our new person here and the structure that's in place, the tightening up and then the overlap won't be there, right? So things we've adopted, policies that have been implemented won't be viewed negatively because they won't be on this year.
And it's really difficult to bring in multiple new people in one department because who knows what.
Right.
Going back, you're almost training two people.
Right.
To do something you want them to do that, you know, is difficult. I had one question for you, another one. When you mentioned the assets that are out there to take accountability or account of, are you talking old assets, like old trucks that have been sitting around?
Potentially.
Or graders and,
Just
All that.
anything. We can see,
Buildings.
the listing has assets on there that, you know, just look at it and just reasonably think that you probably don't have that anymore. So, you know, either find it.
might.
You might. You might, but. Yeah. You might, but I just look at the list and I can see that there's
Okay.
things on there that you very likely don't have.
all right, I just wanted that clear so everyone really understood that, you know, we're not looking for just little things, it's just pretty big things that are on a list as assets.
Yeah, I think there's things on there big and small that,
Okay.
you know, probably don't have anymore.
Councilman Blanke, you were next.
Thanks. Elaine, I'd like to address your statement. You wish we could keep this temporary till next audit. Why can't we?
Oh, I thought you were going to say you wish we could keep her.
Pardon?
I thought you were going to say I wish I could keep her, but yeah.
No, I was gonna
I think
say-
that we can keep her for another month to finish up providing all the information for this next audit.
But if what we're, discussing, I believe, if you need her, what are we talking about? We're suggesting that we fill in the holes here. And if you have someone that's doing the job, why wouldn't you at least say another 6 months or something?
I don't think we need her that long. I think it would
Okay.
take a month, maybe two at the most.
Okay. And I just want to clarify, Councilwoman Sutherland, I did say it is what it is. Now, in your world, I don't know, do you work for a government entity?
I work with the government.
Pardon?
I work with the government, but no, I work for.
Well, that's a
I work
different-
for a private corporation.
Okay, private. Private is so different than the government, and anyone that's ever put any time in the government, I believe will agree with me. And what I want to say is the fact that the turnover, with the employees, as you can see, with the police, with the DPW, with the clerical, with the department heads, I admit I sat up here too, thinking at the time we had a skeletal recreation or no recreation at all. Now consider this, we hired Sarah, and we gave her that responsibility to oversee recreation. It should have worked. On paper, it should have worked. We should have been able to hire someone to go in that place 3 days a week or whatever it was and run that operation, and she should have been here. I mean, that's just the reality. But she was receiving, a push from here, a push from this one, that one. We want recreation, and the whole time, that's just not a reality at this point to what people want. So I'm just going to stick by my story, and I mean that. It is what it is. Government is a whole different, you've heard the saying, the red tape, and we went through the red tape in the hiring process, but at times, it just doesn't seem to work. So my thing is, you're the one that's judging, Elaine, how long how short you need this temp, and I think she should have full reign. Elaine should have full discretion on how long you think you need this worker. Thank you.
Well, I kind of agree with Ms. Sutherland, where actually, the buck does stop at that chair. It really does. So we can have the worst people in the world, the wrong people in the wrong seats, but it's up to the city manager to get the stuff done, get it on time, do what they can. If they don't, then we're not giving her the tools to do the job right. So it all comes down to it, but, we have to work closer maybe with Elaine to get it all done, but we have to ensure, because I've been up here a long time, like Kelly, it really is frustrating. Even though it's not bad financially, it's just, I can remember audit we did with Pratt and Lemmer a long time ago, and it was a lot of the same things 15 years ago. But that turnover of people just, it doesn't get passed on. They just leave and you hire somebody else, so. But still, the buck stops with you, right?
I could definitely say I have learned more than I think I need to learn about finance and the treasurer's role in this whole process.
'Cause I don't want Mary to be doing audits. If you know what I mean.
Get your calculator out.
I'm sorry. Suzanne, Ms. Coker, you're next.
Thank you. So I just want to reiterate the importance of getting the audit caught up. And if you need anything, you need to keep these people on, you want to, explore other ideas. I'd like to see all these things attacked and dealt with in the next 6 months. So that way,
60 days.
Yeah, 6 months.
Done in 4 months.
Next
I
audit,
was thinking it's due 6 months after, the audit is due
End of the
6
year.
months after.
There's paperwork.
Right, so that would be December 30th, right?
December 31st,
In 4
yep.
months.
This year, right. Well, okay, I'm sorry, it's August. My
But
apologies.
there are reports that need to be done now that take months and months to do.
Okay, so whatever resources you need is what I'm trying to get at.
I know. I agree with you.
Whatever resources you need. I can't speak for everyone else, but you have my support to get this where it needs to be. So that way we can feel comfortable and confident, and our new finance director does not have a mountain to climb. It's not fair to her. It really isn't. So if we can try to get her in a position where she's not coming into the hornet's nest, if you will, and feeling like she's under time crunch and doesn't want to sleep and is working, 70 hours, that's just not realistic, and it isn't. So let's work together to figure out these policies. I thought we did this. Policies and
I
procedures.
actually thought we did that one policy. We're going to check up on that, which it likely was not for this last audit.
There was one policy that we suggested last year that you guys did adopt. And I forget what it was, but it was.
But it's not in there because
It
you
was
did
taken off the
adopt.
list.
That's right, I know. Well, there is
Sorry.
there's a lot of good stuff, but I get it. And I don't think anybody is perfect. So, and that's not what we're saying here, but this stuff, there's some of these things on here that are very, very critical and very serious. And we do need to address them immediately and think about what is needed and let us know, because I want to support you as much as I possibly can, and I want to support our new finance director, because I don't want her leaving in 3 months because she's burned out. And I really think that might have been the reason that we had other people leave, because they were burned out. It's a lot of work, and I don't know, because I didn't really talk to them about why they left.
People do that to you.
Well, yes, it will, unless you love what you do. But please, don't hesitate to reach out and tell us what you need or bring it up so we can make sure we support you and give you the financial resources or give you the resources that you need. Because really, I think it's important that we get, I want to see us make sure that everything is caught up and that we get our audit done before the deadline this time. I want to see that happen. And I'm not saying you're not doing that. I want you to understand, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is we need to make it a priority so that there's no excuses as to why it's not done. So if you need something, please do not hesitate to let us know. I won't be here, but that's okay. But if you need something, I'm sure they will support you because you've done a phenomenal job otherwise. And this is not really a reflection. It's just we need to work towards a solution. So, thank you.
Councilman Odell.
All right, one more thing, and then I'll let you continue your report. Which,
I'm done.
so,
God, he's got 17 more.
Alan, so similar sized cities. I kind of want to go back to all the reports to the state,
Please.
who we got to pay out every month, like you said, the 15th, 30th. Those should be pretty much the same, no matter what city you're in, the state of Michigan. Am I correct there, or pretty darn close?
Yeah.
I mean, your state reports, your audits, all that's all due at the same
Everybody
time.
files an F-65, everybody files an Act 51 report, everybody has to file payroll taxes and all those.
Exactly. So my view is, it seems like the disconnect to me and is that there's not a straightforward roadmap of what's got to be turned in when and how, at least in our internal procedures in finance, or else it would be done, or we're like, hey, we're 2 weeks behind on this, we got to get it in. If it's something that's required by the state. I'd like to actually see it from the finance once we get this next audit done. Here's a list every month. This is what it's got to go in. This is, a checklist. So you can go through and review the finance person and say, did you file this? Did you file this? Oh, no, the reconciliation isn't done. We got to get on that. What do you need to get that done? What do you need help from somebody else that might be able to help? That type of thing. We need that checklist because, like, trust but verify, right? So people say, I'm on it, but if you go through and it's not being filed, that's a problem. And from a council standpoint, we're so far behind when we're making budget decisions. If we don't know what the true numbers are, it's hard to make that budget decision. We might be making decisions that put us in a much worse financial, place because we don't know the true numbers. So, from my opinion, I do agree. Get what you need to get it caught up. Let's get it done on time. Let's get a roadmap so going forward, it's on time every time. And that way, as a council, no matter who's in these chairs, we can make solid financial decisions. And I know there's lots of monkey wrenches that happen, but if we have a blueprint and we could just pick up that blueprint and go in, or if we have to hire temps, hey, we got to work on the reconciliation. It hasn't been done yet this month, or whatever, has to be reported. We need a blueprint. Finances are too important not to have a blueprint. And like I'll echo what Councilwoman Kolka said, if you need the temps longer, if you need more to get the mundane work done so they can concentrate on audit and getting everything in at a time, we got hopefully have the funds to do that. And so let's get it done. And I think having that information readily available allows us to make smart financial decisions moving forward. Thank you.
Anybody else?
So do we need to do anything with regard to the temp and extending it now, or is that already, I want to just make the motion if we need to, because,
I don't want to make that specific.
no.
I have enough support to just move forward.
Okay, I don't want it to be delayed, because because we had two people, keep them in until
Or whatever else.
we don't need it.
Especially someone who
I mean,
has some-
especially because this is like a checklist, I don't know how long it will take to do each of these things, but my philosophy is check, done, check, some 2 seconds, send us the thing, we're going to approve it in September. I mean, I want to see that thing in September. But thank you for pointing out what's most important of all. Fraser's not unique in turnover, in need for a very, very focused subspecialty, and there's not enough people. And why is that? I don't know. But thanks for acknowledging that this isn't an Elaine problem, this isn't a council problem, this is a societal problem, a state problem, a nationwide problem. And so if you're in the accounting business, the world is your oyster, right?
I guess. Closer to retirement than the rest of them.
Right. Well, thank you for everything.
We also have to be willing to pay for the right people.
Well, because the world is their oyster and they can,
Was there anything else you had to, was that?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's a shortage
But now-
of qualified professionals out there. There absolutely is. We're seeing it.
But overall, we are spending less than we're bringing in. We have reduced our expenditures based on your charts. We have done a lot of good things to consolidate and clean up, and we have more work to do to consolidate and clean up to make sure that it is tight. And it's a work in progress, as it always is.
Yep.
Have you ever done any audit that didn't have recommendations for improvements?
Yes.
Really? Who? That's amazing.
I have some clients that are, I mean, they're right on top of it.
Wow.
They're right on top of it. I have,
We need their finance director.
Right?
yeah, I'm thinking about one in particular that they're really good.
Wow.
They're really just top notch.
Why do you think they're top notch? Like, what would you say the key to the success is?
Yeah,
with
good
that?
question.
It's a great question. First of all, the specific client that I'm thinking about is, they have a chief financial officer, and his responsibility is to oversee the finances. Under him, he has an accountant. That city is bigger than you are, but still, they have a structure there, and they have multiple people in those positions. And also, they have really strong leadership from the mayor. So they're set up differently. It's a strong mayor government, so that's a different format than you guys have. But they all work together very well, and it all starts from the mayor and the council to your city manager, and that's what really makes them successful. You guys can do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ms. Coker, you had one more?
I just had a comment. So the directive then, we talked about a timeline, and I think maybe the directive should be broad and a timeline, what we'd like to see, and like to have something brought back to us in the next few months, so we can kind of get a feel for the progress, if you will. And I think that would be helpful. I don't know what that looks like, but I think, 60 days, 90 days, something that, would allow you an opportunity to get things moving so that we can see the progress, so we can stay on the timeline.
But you know what, that's a valid point, because in reality, some of these things you're going to have next year because.
Year's already passed.
We're not going to have these, well, yeah. because-
Right.
But
We shouldn't.
we will know by December. To me, that's like the logical, ideal goal endpoint, right? If you're coming in November, this is all addressed by then.
Well, I can put on the agenda under returning business.
Yeah.
Audit update every month until,
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I
simple.
can actually do that during my manager's report.
Perfect.
So the bulk of the work is really.
That takes
all-
away questions. One thing I don't like about the report is it takes away council's questions.
Hey, keep it on.
The-
But she gives us a weekly update.
Oh, I know.
The,
But
the
it's here,
bulk,
the citizens get to know the
Oh, right,
updates
but-
too and everything else.
the bulk of the work is uploading all of the documents. They have a phenomenal platform, and I would say there's like 130 plus different categories of documents that have to be uploaded. So think about all of our financial statements, bank statements, any type of budgetary items, major expenses, capitalization of items, depreciation, all this kind of stuff. The bulk of all of that work will be taking place in the next 30 days, where she has to upload all of this stuff to the platform. So she's been through it already. She knows where to find everything. We have access. So for her to be able to go through now with this platform, because she's familiar with it, to be able to get everything up there, we should have all of that done within, I'd say, 30, no more than 60 days, because they have to start doing their preliminary work to get things ready for our audit report in November.
So does that mean then, will you have time then to address the issues with regard to the matters for management's considerations, such as the tax disbursements, what's the checks and balances for that, the credit card transactions, and I know we probably have some of that already in place, but bank reconciliation, just so we know.
We're all caught up on the bank reconciliations now. That's something that, it seems like once you start falling behind, it just kind of snowballs.
Yeah, sure.
There was, I think 1 month, like last February or something like that, there were a whole bunch of problems, and because they're working like a year and a half behind trying to piece all of this stuff together, it took a while, and you kind of have to go through this in like the timeline process. So they're all caught up on the bank reconciliations. We have the credit card policy in place. So a lot of these things we have addressed. But, like you said, some of these things that are in this, because this is so late, it'll still be in the next one. But it doesn't mean that we aren't going to have that fixed.
Right, okay, and I think the concern is just to make sure we have everything that's on this list fixed now, just so that at some point, maybe we can put an addendum that says that this was addressed, even though we're behind.
Right?
Even though.
I'm gonna have to say it one more time.
Yeah, so in any event, okay, so then what is the consensus then? You want her to provide us with something in her manager's report, or do you want it on the
Both.
agenda?
I like the agenda. It's simple. If it's nothing to report, she won't report it.
But if you feel, whatever your preference is, but we'll be on the agenda and we'll get an update, and hopefully all of these things will be addressed by the end of the year, and if not, we will have notification of why, how, when.
Yeah.
Because, this council comes up with some pretty smart ideas and questions, so if it's public,
Yeah,
I mean.
I think the public should know.
yeah, but rather than the minutia, she can be like, here's what I did.
Sure.
We know on a weekly basis, and then on a monthly basis, it's like, this month I accomplished this.
Just so that we have a progressive, forward progress that we can document for the residents, so that they know that we're, taking this very seriously. Thank you.
Yeah, because Elaine knows I like face-to-face better than, right?
He's emailing it over now.
Thank you again, Helen, appreciate it very much.
Thank you all very much. If we have any questions, feel free to give you a call, right?
Yeah, my contact information is in there. I'm happy to take a call from anybody.
Appreciate all your time. I appreciate you giving me updates early, and look forward to the next one.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's your meeting. At least you made it interesting. It wasn't like, it was boring.
Well, you made it as interesting as it could be, considering it.
Right, you didn't drag it out, to, you didn't drag it out about stuff that we don't even understand. You made it very clear.
I've been in audits where they sugarcoat it so bad, and then you look at it like, what are they talking about?
I knew it was going to be important. Not just for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you know your audience. Thank you.
Does anyone need a break?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to do that. We'll take a break after we're done with this item, and,
Sounds good.
audience participation?
Thank you. My name's Mike Lesage, 15201 Fairview. They say if you have a job that you love, it's a hobby. Well, one of the things I happen to do as a job is a little bit of municipal finance. And I sat on council for 6 years, and we've been through, this is now the 8th finance solution since 2014, the new finance director. So I won't go over too much about the failures of the 2021-2022 audit. I think those were there clearly laid out by Mr. Panter, and I really do appreciate that he was quite clear. But a couple of key points. One, it was 7 months late. This was due on December 31st, 2022. I FOIA'd this in January 31st of 2023. I received an extension of a notice to extend because it was not complete. About a week ago, last Friday, I sent a letter and email to the city saying, where is the audit? And because I had heard that it could be at this meeting. I should have received that audit already. This document, these presentations, the financial statements, those were prepared some time ago. So it's been 6 months since I requested that information. I was told that I could come and review it tonight. Well, that's not true because we got an audit presentation, but there is no actual document here for me to review. I asked to receive that document. I have several.
Mine.
Please don't interrupt me, Ms. Kalka. Thank you.
You can have mine.
Ms. Kalka,
I'm just saying.
please add a few seconds
Go
to
ahead.
my time. So, I have been asking for information the day before I left office in November of 2021. I sent an email to the city manager and asked that we continue to include those finance reports in the packet because she was new and I wasn't sure she was aware of the process. I didn't receive them. We did not receive those till, I believe, February or March of 2023. Of 2022. After I FOIA'd them. Because you need those as regular management documents. We weren't receiving them. The public wasn't receiving them. Anyway, bottom line, $4.6 million in adjusting journal entries that were not done. The accountant says do these. They weren't done. Turnover, I don't care. It is a job that needs to be done. The finance department runs this city through collecting money, paying employees, paying MERS, paying pensions. All of that job is a function of the city that needs to be done, whether there's a person in that position or not. If there isn't, you hire Plant Moran. You hire some other company. So that's a failure. Why didn't we hire help before the disaster struck? This is 13 months ago. We, as the auditor said quite clearly, we don't know what happened in the last year. So we could be behind the 8 ball on that too. Resources, they're an issue. Hire them. When we hired Ms. Mistretta, one of the deals was, and there's 2 council people I told specifically, I will not vote for her unless there's a backup plan to help her with the accounting. We hired accounting supervisor, Ms. Westfall, who lasted 6 weeks. That was a condition of my vote. I thought it was an understanding that Sarah needed the support because right in her resume it said she was not savvy in finance. She had very minimal experience. We should have hired somebody, backfilled that position right away. This may never have happened. Who knows? Segregation of duties, credit card transaction approvals after what happened with Ms. Kwiatkowski. It's unacceptable. I didn't approve my own credit card bills when I owned the company and wrote the checks. I had another person prepare that so that it was clean. Thank you very much. I've been asking for financial information from this city for a very long time. I've reviewed over 20 years of audits. This is by far the worst audit I've ever seen, and the people of this city should be concerned that their money has not been managed for the last 2 years, and you cannot simply blame turnover for it. The council makes the decision to hire and fire the finance director, city manager, DPW superintendent, and the police chief, and the attorney. Those jobs are important, and it's up to you to give that advice and consent role and back them up along the way. There's really no excuse why we're 3 years late on audits, and God, I hope this one works out and gets done by December 31st. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Anybody else? Passing on, I'll bring it back to council.
I was thinking, what is this, a big surprise, you know?
Was it,
But you know what's crazy?
what's that?
I met with her a couple of times in the last few months.
The absentee, that law has changed, and how many people go absentee? Which my family of 5 did, so I don't know.
Good
what-
thing, or,
Because I was like, oh,
Okay.
how easy was this, right? It was done, I didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
You do?
No, that's a different issue. You take that case, remember you said you were retiring? Got it. But let's just hope the baby's healthy.
Call the meeting back to order at 8:20.
Is advised by the city manager to keep it short. Try to get rid. As you just addressed me, absolutely, that's what I'm here to do, is to request body-worn cameras for the Department of Public Safety. In the request is for 25 cameras, which would encompass everybody that's on the road and give us a chance to have a spare or two in view, if not the only department that is not utilizing this technology. And it really is something that I feel is important for transparency purposes, for training purposes, for prosecution. There really is a multitude of reasons to utilize the technology that's out there. And it really is something I want to say, let's get ahead of the curve and utilize the technology that's out there that's meant for law enforcement. But we're not along with body-worn cameras. And, I just want to be able to protect my people against false allegations or hold them accountable if there are allegations that have shown to be true. And so for those reasons, I think that this is extremely important. I think we're a little behind, and I would like to get us up to speed. So about a year or so ago, I believe it was in May of last year, the council authorized permission approval to purchase. I've gotten in the quote that is here, also includes the mounting of the camera on the person, as well as redaction tools, and the software, the cloud, all of those things that go with it. This particular quote that I've given, I think I did check on here that I'd gotten quotes. There aren't a lot of options. We have Motorola or WatchGuard, which is what I'm proposing because of what we already have. The cost of the cameras, as well as the in-car cameras, the purchase is for 5 years. So this price that is on here is for the whole 5 years. It's not, incremental. It's the whole 5-year deal. At any time during the wearing of these cameras, if they're under warranty the entire time. So if something is defective, it gets broken, whether it's neglect, whether it's duty-related, whether it's a defect, the company Motorola will replace that camera without any issue, without any cost added. After the first 3 years, they will replace all of the cameras as part of the package. So in 3 years, you get brand new cameras, all for this price. At the end of 5 years, this is a 5-year deal, we own the products, and would be responsible for maintaining that, but there would be a fee after the 5 years for software. And, but this particular quote gives just the 5-year cost. So, and again, like I said, this is for 25 body-worn cameras, which would encompass everybody that would be on patrol.
Okay. I have just a couple of questions, and I'll let council go. The cameras, the filing of all the data and all that, and you mentioned the cloud, but do we need anything here that holds it all first, and then we reach a
So
certain
when
amount?
we bought the WatchGuard in-car cameras, we purchased enough space to hold any data that we would get from the body-worn cameras. So that was we already have it. So there shouldn't be any issues with server or space. We already have paid for that. So this really is just about the hardware, in essence.
Okay. And then, do you maintain that data all the time, or if it's not necessary, nothing happens, do you just delete that data?
We would purge things just like we do now, whatever the retention is required, whatever, either by law or by policy, we would go with that, of course, for all of the body-worn camera footage as well.
Yeah, I didn't want to give timing based on rules and stuff that you have. Last question is there any pushback on this at all, or?
I understand that council had questions about buy-in from the officers previously. I will tell you that I did not take a poll, and there are several reasons for that. Even if I took a poll and they all said, we don't want it, we don't want it, I believe as an administrator that it's important that we have this piece of equipment, and I would be asking anyway. I don't believe that they would all say that. I believe that there's, you've got 2 schools. I think, and this is just me saying, I'm certain that there are probably officers that have been around a long time that may be a little old school, that, they don't want Big Brother who wants to walk around with a camera on their chest. I get that. I'll tell you that I've been around long enough that, and I'll date myself, but I've been in this profession since before we even did dash cams. And when those dash cams came out, it was, oh my God, here it is. Everybody's looking at us, they're looking to burn us, they're looking to catch us doing something wrong. And that's absolutely not the truth. We're looking to catch you doing things right. We're looking to be able to protect you, to make sure that people aren't making false allegations. We're looking to make sure that you stay on the up and up and you're not violating others' rights. And it really is about accountability, transparency, and what is best for this city, what is best for the agency, and really what's best for the officers. And they don't always recognize that it's in their best interest. And so for those reasons, I did not take a poll.
Okay.
Because I would be asking anyway, as I said.
Okay.
And I really just think it's that important. And just in all of my communications with police chiefs and administrators in this area and nationally, quite frankly, it is the standard. It is expected by the public, and it is a protective device for not just us, but for the public in general. And so, no, I did not take a poll.
Okay.
I believe that even if they're not on board now, they will be. And I will put it out to them that it is a tool to protect them and us. It is not, the intent is not to use it against them.
Great. Perfect. Councilwoman Baranski, you were first.
Yep. First, thank you for proactively getting a grant. Always nice. And it's a big grant, so thank you for that. So the purchase of the cloud, was that a one-time purchase, or do we pay yearly for the cloud?
So we would pay, this cost includes the cloud for 5 years. The
Okay.
additional cost would be the cloud by year by year.
After 5?
After 5.
And we can worry about that, whether.
Yes, and I can tell you what that cost is now.
But it's going to change.
I mean, it's roughly $12,000.
Okay.
Now, what is it going to be in 5 years? I don't know.
But for
that's-
5 years, we know our costs, we know the pros, we know the cons, and if the costs become cost prohibitive in 5 years,
Right. After 5 years, we can reevaluate if we want a different product or we don't want this product at all. One thing that it's certainly going to increase our workload administratively because of FOIA requests, and instead of just downloading in-car video, we'll have to download your body cam and your body cam and your body cam. I mean, so that is going to increase our workload. I'm hoping that we're able to maintain and keep up with that. We'll see as it rolls out, how much that really is. But I'm, cautiously optimistic that we're going to be able to do that with what we have so far.
Is this something that we can do unilaterally as a city in terms of uniform requirements? Or do,
Well, I'm not sure I understand.
like? Correct, yeah, thank you.
Equipment's not a subject
Okay.
for collective bargaining.
Perfect.
It's
Just
like,
wanted to make sure.
if I said, hey, we're going to go from Glock to SIG,
Perfect.
okay. I mean, that.
And then the last thing for me, which is important to be mindful of those employees that are not fully on board, and also just to prevent issues. I'm assuming you're working on, but I want to make sure that we have a clearly defined policy in place for how this video is going to be used. That it is not to be arbitrarily used to bust the employee who may be venting in his locker room, on his own time, or in her locker room, or having lunch, and the nightmares that we see. And so what I would ask, because I'm fully in support of this, that whatever policies are put together before this is implemented, that Mr. Denault, because I know his attention to detail is so great, having dealt with him on some other issues, although he's not our labor lawyer, I very much want him, in addition to our labor lawyer, making sure that that policy protects our employees and the city, so that as much as there's not nefarious intent, it just eliminates the fear of that.
Of course, and we wouldn't be able to utilize the grant without a policy.
Oh, perfect.
The entire SING policy prior to actually issuing the money.
Oh, awesome.
So like I mentioned before, everybody around us utilizes body-worn cameras, and they all have a policy. I've seen several of them.
Perfect.
And ours would be very similar, just tailored to our specific needs, of course, but many, many, many of these policies that I've seen and I've looked at, and I actually have a sample of one here, are from agencies that are accredited already. And when you go through accreditation, there's a standard, way, and all of these policies are very similar. So we will be looking at that very closely to make sure that we're in alignment with the best practices and the suggestions and the policies that are already being used and are effective.
Perfect. With that, I'm very comfortable making a motion to approve the purchase of the body cameras as outlined in the packet.
Second.
Motion second. I just have a couple more things and a couple other council people do. I remembered I didn't ask.
Am I late on to make the motion?
Obviously, because of my background, but is it easy on, easy off? Because I know these guys got to get dressed for a fire. So is it something that's simple to just get off and start firefighting?
There's actually different types of holders, some
Okay,
that
so it's
snap
like
on
quick
collar,
release.
some that snap, connect to a shirt. And so the officers actually previously had given what their preference was for that holder. And so, yes, I mean, it'll be something, and no more difficult than dropping everything else.
Okay. And then my last one was actually, when I was looking at this before, there's one city in Indiana that was sued because of HIPAA laws that the officers taped the medical run inside the ambulance.
And that is a concern that I actually had conversation with a chief in another jurisdiction who is also public safety, and asked him specifically about that, and I could get with Don and see. It doesn't seem to be an issue if there were, in my limited scope of that, but the redaction tools are there, and so the intent is not to go in and provide medical service and all of that sort of thing. But the redaction tools are in there, and so there would be no reason to release that information to.
Okay, no, as long as you're aware, because it caught my attention.
It is,
seeing that.
it
It's like, I
was,
never really
it
thought
is.
about that, but.
It is.
Yeah, they ran the cameras in the ambulance, and then it was like, the family wasn't very happy, so.
I mean, even police officers that are not public safety officers deal with people that are in distress and need medical attention, and
Right.
go into houses and provide CPR and all of these things. And that, as far as I am aware, in all of these policies has not been an issue. I don't know if.
Okay. Dana, you were just going to make a motion. Councilman Odell?
Getting them half off. Thank you for pursuing that grant. I mean, that's what we want from our department heads. If we can get free money to us to help make our city better. For all the points you've, already stated, I think it's just smart from a liability standpoint for the city. It protects the officers, protects the citizens, and it's transparent, Sometimes bad apples can, last 3 or 4 years that we've dealt with, it can give police a bad light, but if you see everything's being done right, there's no reason to question it. So I think it's the future, and it's what needs to be done, and having the foresight to do that. So I'm very happy with what you've done with getting the grant money and
And they, the administration that was here prior to me being here and is still here today had done a lot of that work much
that point.
before I got here. I was just fortunate enough to answer the phone when he called and said, hey, this money is here.
Nice.
Do you want it? And so that's
great.
why, quickly I wanted to get these things together to present to you so that we don't lose the opportunity to seize.
And just out of curiosity point, they don't have it on for their 8 or 12-hour shift the whole time, correct? I mean, if they go to, they do, even if they go to lunch or restroom
The
or,
policy will address when it has to be on and when they can.
When it has
turn
to be
off.
on.
We're not trying to capture people's lunchtime conversation. We're not trying to capture people in the locker room or in the bathroom.
Right,
or
right.
Anything that everybody is afforded privacy. Again, that's not the intent. It's for interaction out of the station with citizens, with suspects, with people that they're taking reports from. It's for those sorts of things. It's not for.
so they have an on and off button, so when they're on break or.
Right, and the policy will address when they're allowed to turn it off. I mean,
Okay.
there are certain triggers in the car that will automatically turn it on without them having to do anything. They can certainly manually turn it on themselves, but the policy will address when they can turn it off.
Okay,
As
perfect.
long as they're finished with what they're doing, we're not trying to capture those other things.
I never get those calls asking me if I want money, and
Just got lucky.
Maybe you're in the
right?
wrong place. You gotta go if I
The
heard
groundwork was already.
if I said that, I'd probably be in trouble, all right? Councilwoman Blanky?
Thank you. Thank you, Denise, for bringing this to us.
Sam.
Pardon?
Sam.
Oh, Sam. Why did I say Denise? It's late. No, she's a Sherry, and it sure wasn't Mark. I have no idea. I apologize. I just want to applaud you because it does take transparency and accountability. That's what you're focused on. It takes courage to do what you're saying, because it's obvious to me and Mike and those of us who have been up here, this has never been brought to the forefront before to do this. And sure, it has resistance and it has, it plus and negative, Samantha. No, to this issue. But I do applaud you because it was brave of you to make this decision. I stand by it. I'm amazed we don't have, I told you that in our discussion. I would have never guessed we didn't have these cameras. And again, I appreciate everything that Mrs. Bransky said about the legal, and I know you'll do it in a diligent way. So thank you, because I have loved this department since I moved here at 21 years. And it's been a couple years since I moved in, and I have always felt so proud of the department and the steps they have taken to protect us. I find this to be a paramount step, and I do thank you, because it makes me feel good that we hired the right lady and the right person for this position. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, any,
Said Denise, oh my God.
we have motions, second, any comments from the audience? I see, I'll bring it back to council. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Item D, building maintenance position.
Ready to make a motion. We've already talked.
Good evening.
Yeah.
This council agenda item is requesting a full-time building maintenance person, which we have discussed extensively during the budget process. And,
No, we're good.
oh, okay.
Yeah, the lights are like Christmas trees over here, so
Yeah.
you're good, Councilwoman Sutherland.
Yeah, we already thought we did this one before. So I would like to make a motion for the DPW superintendent to hire for a newly created full-time building maintenance technician that will primarily be paid for and assigned to senior housing.
Second.
Motion and second. Comments, questions from the audience?
So yeah, we didn't want to cut you off. We were just making your life easier.
Back to council, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is the job description done on that?
Yep,
It is.
It's here.
It's in there.
It's in the packet.
Because I do have a guy to send it to. Councilwoman Baranski.
Oh, I was going to move on to the next item.
Go ahead.
Okay.
You do that one.
So I would like to make a motion to backfill the DPW equipment operator position.
Second.
And then I have something I want to add after that, because I want to, just so you guys understand, I think since it's going to be hopefully result in a laborer being vacant, just proactively then fill that now rather than waiting so that you can get.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's why I wrote it that way.
Similar we do with the public safety.
Exactly, just like we do with the public safety.
Best way to do it, so.
Yep.
Okay, we do have a motion and second. Anyone from the audience? Back to council, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
So now, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to, subject to all of this going the way it should go.
It will.
I know it will.
It's 100%.
Well, I know I shouldn't say it like that. I would like to make a motion to backfill the laborer position that's anticipated to be vacated based on the prior motion.
Absolutely. We have a motion, I'll second. Second. Comments, questions on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank
You too, Mark. Thanks for coming in.
Congrats to the Joe.
Item F, Local Officials Compensation Commission appointment.
Well, the local officials compensation commission met, and you have the draft minutes with their recommendation, both for this item, which is the new appointment, and the next item, which is the reappointment.
Councilwoman Baranski.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Don Dudek to the local compensation commission.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Comments, questions from the audience? Back to council, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Do I know?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to
Recommendation.
make sure the motion was clear that it's for the term listed
Oh,
in the.
I'm sorry,
for the-
yes.
Just so we know what term their end date will be.
I saw him.
But everybody understood that, right?
Yes.
Scroll through to that really
As long
quick.
as everybody understood that that's the motion, I don't want to have any confusion
Be
about,
faster on the finger.
about the term. Sorry, I didn't even get to the light, I just wanted to speak.
From Ed coming out and from
For the term
double
This
Ed and from you going.
September
30th,
Like
September 30th.
27.
September 30th, 2027.
Okay.
So your motion's been amended.
Yes.
You got that, Cindy?
Did we vote?
Yes, we did vote.
No, we didn't vote,
Yeah,
did we?
Yeah.
I thought we did because you went aye.
Oh, that's right, it was late. It was late. I spaced out for a minute.
I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Roseanne Mendez to the local officials compensation, oh my goodness. I'd like to make a motion to that's my first one, that's pretty good. I'd like to make a motion, and I apologize for that. I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Roseanne Mendez to the local officials compensation commission for the term ending September 30th, 2028.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions from the one audience? I See none, bring back to council. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item H, MML designation and voting delegate.
Who wants to go?
So the city is members of MML, and they have their annual meeting every year, and they need to have a delegate appointed and an alternate from the city. You don't necessarily need to attend. I believe last year the mayor was voted the delegate. I'm not sure who the alternate was.
I think it was me.
Yes. It was.
Yeah.
So we're just looking at this point for you to appoint a voting delegate and an alternate for MML.
Do you
Set up
have,
with that plan again unless anybody else wants to change it.
do you have to go?
You don't
Oh, you don't have
necessarily
to.
need to go.
Did you go?
I did.
Do you want to go again?
Days, no.
No.
Does anyone want to go?
Because how do I say it?
A lot of
It's actually become real, I mean, I learned a lot of things like the Biden plan and stuff like that, but it really is kind
Traverse
of
City is
political.
nice.
Ooh.
It's really what?
Political.
Yeah.
They really,
Do you want to go,
so
Dana?
that's the only part I really.
I nominate Dana, council member Dana Sutherland, to be the voting delegate for the 2023 MML conference.
Second.
Good
I'll be
for
her
you.
alternate then.
Wow. Okay, perfect. She wants to go.
What about the alternate?
And Mayor Carnegie as the alternate.
Do we have a second?
Mr. Odell.
Okay.
Council member Odell.
Any comments, questions from the audience?
Thank you for doing that.
Back to council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Just call me, I'll show you all
Oh,
the
yeah.
stuff. 'Cause there is a lot.
I'm excited. When I went to my MML training, I was like, I was nerding out. It was great.
You are going to be like so on it. Represent us well.
It,
Get us some grants.
very interested. You can't get that. You do see everybody else's projects, which are phenomenal, but they're, Royal Oaks was 87 million.
Kind of disheartening.
Traverse City was $75 million.
my pocket's out.
Fraser gets 1.8.
So, but you learn a lot.
100,000.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
The only bad thing is you can only pick certain classes you want to go to, and you miss the other ones because they're only scheduled at the same time, so.
We expect a full report
Oh, okay.
in November.
Okay. Let's see, November election precinct consolidation. Cindy, would you like to address it, or we're, okay?
I can, if you'd like.
You can't speak without a microphone.
Oh,
You'll get in
sorry.
trouble.
He will come up.
Oh, yeah.
As we did in the May and August election, I am requesting approval to consolidate precincts 3 and 5 into one voting precinct 3-5, and precincts 6 and 7 into one voting precinct 6-7. As we did review before, they are in the same voting site, the same building, so it makes it pretty easy for us to consolidate them. But I do need approval from you to do that.
Councilman Kolko?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to adopt, number resolution 2023-13 as presented,
Second.
which combines 3 and 5 into one precinct and 6 and 7 into one precinct
Second.
for the November election. I'm done.
We have a motion in 2 seconds.
Double second.
Any comments from the audience?
Red Bull.
Back to council, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item J, November election early voting.
So you're probably all familiar that with the passage of proposal. Gonna bring me my own. Thanks. And it's turned on? It is. All right, thank you. With the passage of proposal 2022-2, the municipalities in the state of Michigan will be required to offer 9 days of early voting prior to all state and federal elections. Because the next election we have that will be a federal election is the presidential primary, which is February 27th. I'm requesting that the city council would approve our early voting site, which is something we need to do 60 days prior to an election, so that I can hold some early voting for our November election. That is 83 days away, so this would be plenty of time to do so. the attorney and I have had some pretty lengthy conversations about this, so I feel I would like him to interject his thoughts as well, and we can discuss it and go from
To be
there.
clear, it's a test run.
I'm asking for it in November so that I can do some practice. I would not anticipate having the entire 9 days. I wouldn't be required to, which is where he and I are getting into discussion. I've been on the phone with the state of Michigan, with the county of Macomb. They have both said, the state says the county really has the call. The county said they're not going to be comfortable until the state says so. In fairness, right, in fairness, the state frequently has answered questions of mine with, we just don't know yet. We just don't know yet. The reason I put this on the agenda was I didn't want to miss the opportunity to do that. They might not even have our technology ready in November, and then this is a moot point. My fear was if we didn't adopt this, we couldn't do it in November.
It come to fruition.
But as we discussed before the meeting, there's not really a reference to local elections and whether or not you have to adopt a resolution. And when the people that have written this and are supposed to take care of it don't give you an answer, I was leaning toward the way of just trying to be mindful of the fact that if we needed one, I wanted to get it adopted. So,
Be proactive, but you
Yep.
gotta wait for the government.
yep. But I would like Mr. Denault to speak to this as well.
You sure?
Sure you do?
I'm sure I do, because I want them to hear everything.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, Cindy has done a great job of being exuberant about getting ahead of this before the February election, which is a presidential primary where this will be required because of Proposal 2. I have some concerns about doing too much with it tonight for a couple of reasons. One, if you were to approve any resolution tonight, I really think a lot of that language in there is just background noise that we probably should strike. Really, the resolution, if you look at the now therefore be it resolved at the end, is just asking for your approval of this building, this location, to be Fraser's early voting precinct. And it's unspecific, so that would be your standing resolution that going forward to comply with Proposal 2, this would be the place for the 9 straight days of early voting if anybody wanted to avail themselves of that under the Proposal 2 language. The rest of that is a bit, again, it's unnecessary right now, I think, and it's a bit restrictive. I think if we approve this location to be an early voting precinct, well, let me back up. There's no requirement right now to even do this under the Proposal 2. It doesn't apply to the November election. That's a local election. It's not state or federal. Constitution doesn't care about local elections. The voters didn't get involved in that. So this would, in fact, as it's been said, be a practice run. So as a practice run, my legal questions are, do we even need anything like this? Can't we just do it? But my bigger question is, under the election laws that currently exist, can we do it? That's not something I've researched yet, and I don't know that anybody has, because Cindy mentioned there are 2 communities she knows of that are going to try it with similar resolutions, I believe, represented by the same city attorney, I believe. But I don't know if he's looked at it. I don't know. I haven't compared notes with anybody about this. It's kind of a new issue for everybody. And most communities, I think larger communities, don't have the initiative to want to practice because it's a big commitment for a larger communities or smaller communities we're talking about. But my legal question, regardless of, it doesn't matter if you approve this location as an early voting precinct, I'm fine with that. The bigger legal question I have is, can we do it under the current election laws? Can city clerks just open the doors for 8 hours a day for 9 days to let people vote? Or will somebody come back after that's over and say, every vote that came in during those 9 days is now invalidated because there was never any authority given to start voting early, right? And that's my only legal concern about doing this. And we'll work through that. That's not an issue. I'll get her good advice one way or the other, and we'll talk to the right people. So the bottom line for me, if we adopt this tonight, we're just saying, going forward, it's a standing resolution that this location will be our early voting precinct. We get that out of the way, lasts forever until we change it. keep it in a book somewhere so we don't lose track of it. But I don't know that I want some of the other language that's in there, like the whereas section, the very first one, it talks about for at least eight hours is what it's supposed to say at City Hall as it meets polling place requirements. That doesn't fit there because it starts off with the voters in Michigan approved this proposal which does these things. The proposal isn't specific to City of Fraser or City Hall, so I would strike that language. The second whereas clause, it's accurate, but it does nail down very specific hours. And even though the resolution doesn't order that or authorize that to be true, why put it in there? Why not just strike that and we'll work out the hours later? Because, Cindy may have logistical needs. She may have staffing changes. She may have reasons why she needs to change those hours anyway. So why commit to that even in a background clause? The next one, the next whereas clause is accurate, but again, if we're just approving a location, it's just background noise. We really don't need that next paragraph. And then the final one about all early voting dates and times will be posted sufficiently 45 days prior to every election to notify the voters. Again, background noise, because all we're approving in this resolution at the last paragraph is this location. So to me, we don't need all of that. If we want to just make a motion to approve the resolution with the first few lines, striking that last part of the first paragraph, striking the next 3 paragraphs, and then approving the final paragraph, great. Doesn't hurt anything to have it on the books. But Cindy and I need to work through, I think, whether or not the test run can be done. Because legally, I don't want her to be in a position where she has no guidance from anybody at the state or county. She does it, and then we get called out for it later because we were too exuberant or too excited to try it, and we find out we didn't have any authority to do it in the first place. So I just want to be careful on that.
And Cindy appreciates that.
I told her my job is to keep her out of jail,
Yeah.
but if we have to pick a color for her jumpsuit,
He's mentioned that.
yes.
He'd pick a color for me.
yes. She told me she wants black. I don't know if she gets to choose.
Well, orange is the new black.
That's what he said. So,
I'm here all night.
I like it. I didn't
Orange on the
have,
roads, it looks good.
a good opportunity to talk to Don when I put this together. Since then, like I said, we've had a couple of good conversations. I've spoken with City Manager Levin about this as well. I'm fine if you want to just approve the polling location authorizing elections to be able to use this building as a polling location. I'm not sure because I've often wondered what the difference between just making a motion is versus a resolution. If Don feels that just making a motion approving this would suffice, I don't know why it wouldn't.
Yeah, it's tough. It's more complicated than when you and I talked about it.
It has become incredibly complicated, and the fact that nobody at the state of Michigan can give me an answer worries me and makes me think that I'm wasting your time right now, and I don't like to do that. But I also,
You're not wasting our time.
you know, if I have the opportunity to do this so that I know what it's going to feel like come February, I would like to take that shot. Sure.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with using the building as a facility and approving that.
Can we approve it subject to the state approving?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Can we make the motion to use the building subject to the county approving?
Don, were you going to answer her question about the resolution?
I was.
Okay, good. That's what I thought.
I always wait for direction. Thank you.
That's all right. I'd like to hear it.
Because this is
I got a bunch of lights on. You want-
yeah, all these questions are valid, so I didn't want to interrupt any of the questions either.
Councilwoman Baranski.
Well, okay, so first answer the question, resolution or motion?
Yes. So the technical answer is the council speaks through its minutes, so you speak through motions. And when, just like a judge speaks through written orders, right? Not verbal things. If you make a motion, a second, you approve it, and it's in the minutes, it's official. However, resolutions are often required by oversight agencies like counties, states, federal entities. They want to see a resolution, a document that sort of specifies what was approved and why. That's more of a formal record. They don't have to search through the minutes. They don't have to find paragraph 5 on page 10, that kind of thing. So my recommendation for something like this, because you don't want to stick minutes in an election binder to teach people in the future how to do this, would be to make it a resolution. So it's in a book, it's perpetuated, it's not lost to the annals of time buried in some minutes somewhere. So that's my answer to the difference.
Okay, so I have no problem modifying this resolution striking all wherefore clauses and making resolution 2023-14 only the now therefore be it resolved that City Hall is the location. That is the motion I'm going to make. The direction I want to give is that under no circumstance, if it is not crystal clear that we can do it, I do not want to have to redo the election. No disrespect to you.
Oh, no,
because
I totally
but
understand.
It's like the time and expense and because I do anticipate challenges being made. So unless, Don, you can say, yes, guaranteed, that's my opinion. So my motion is to adopt Resolution 2023-14 modified so that there are no wherefore clauses. They are each stricken, and it only is to be now therefore be it resolved that the City of Fraser shall, City of Fraser City Council approve the establishment of the Fraser early voting site, which will be located at City Hall, 33,000 Garfield, Fraser, Michigan, 48026 for the City of Fraser.
Second.
You know, motion and second, especially when you're talking elections to the pulse of the people today, it's just such a hot topic that you gotta do it right. I was gonna say something, but I better not. I don't want Donald Trump to call me.
Right.
Ms. Sutherland, you're next.
Oh, no, I turned my light off, I'm good.
Oh, that was, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Odell?
So Cindy, can you walk me through what you envisioned that early voting being? I saw you said the other the courtroom there.
And that is where we would be doing it.
Okay,
We
so
put our
do you have
AV
somebody there?
counting board in there this time, which was good. It had been at another location, and that was certainly helpful. We are required, in the way that I envision it, is when we do the actual 9-day early voting, not in November, the requirements are, we are open Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Close the day before the election, and then Election Day. We have to have a minimum of 3 inspectors the entirety of the time. That is the law. To man a precinct, you have to have 3 inspectors, and neither I nor Mary can be one of those people. So it would have to be 3 inspectors that we hire from our inspector list, so we are starting to ask them, even if we don't end up doing this in November, if there are people that would be interested that we know that we trust as our inspectors anyway. I believe we can use one tabulator with all 7 precincts loaded on it and 1 electronic poll book. So as I understand it right now, and of course, these are just the things that are out there, we're open, what I would like to see is open from 8 to 4 on the weekends and 12 to 8 on the weekdays. My feeling on that is this is to give an opportunity for people to come in and see their ballot go in the tabulator. If I'm open during the day at our normal business hours, which of course Don did read that in there as well, that is part of the law, normal business hours. Someone gets home from work at 5 o'clock, they want to come in, maybe they're not going to be around on the weekends, they would still like to see their ballot tabulated. So if I'm going to do it, I would like to give them the opportunity to do what they voted for. That is my thought on that, to be able to come in and do that. So then what happens is you close the polls at the end of the night. We have to seal the ballot box up so that all the ballots are sealed. They have to close the election every day, just like we close the election at the end of an election. Then I have to go back. I have to take the little BitLocker USB stick. I have to load the voting history into the QVF, and I have to run a new electronic poll book for the next day. So
You're counting them daily, correct?
we are not counting the outcome daily. What happens with loading the voting history down is it prevents someone from voting absentee. Again, that's going to be a big concern.
Somebody doing absentee, then trying.
And that's the thing I feel like they're going to have to really work on figuring out. You have an absentee ballot that you drop in the ballot box, in the drop box at, 9 o'clock, and you walk in here to get another ballot at 9:05, and because we don't have that history in there, unless they make it live, which then brings a whole nother set of issues. So it's going to be an enormous amount.
It's going to be a much higher additional cost to the city as well, right? Or
So
is
for
that-
the first year, I have read there's going to be about $30 million in grant money. That's what they're pushing for now. I've inquired twice about that to see when we're going to get more information on it so we can get on top of it. We may have to buy new tabulators. Those were $5,400 last time that we bought them, and the federal government they gave us half of money for those. So the state may be willing to include that in their grant opportunity. I feel like for a community our size, we can do the 7 precincts on one tabulator, because you can't, that tabulator that you use for that, you can't use on election day. That has to stay locked up. So, and they're going to require us as well to have an open canvas, which is basically our closing at the end of the day on election day, on the Friday prior to the election, which of course, another thing that I wonder, because we'll have 2 more days of early voting, but
Okay, well, we do have a motion second. Suzanne Skulker, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a couple, actually. Is there some way that we can fashion this, have the resolution, but then fashion a motion that basically says that, you know, as information becomes available on the advice of our council, whether or not we can do the early voting, and if in fact that becomes a possibility, that you can just go ahead and do it instead of having you have to come back to us and ask us again? I don't know, I thought that might be a good idea, because that way you don't run into the 60-day issue in case this happens. You know, this is like, as one would say, organically. Somebody uses that term a lot. Yeah, so organically, you know, if that happens, you don't have to worry about coming to us. So I think but do we need a resolution for that as well? That is the other question. Would you need a resolution, or could we direct you to draft and have one signed if it is legal to do so with the state of Michigan, without having to come before us again? In other words, let's try to be really proactive.
So I think the answer to your question is yes and no. You love those answers, right? So I'll give you
Depends.
I'll give you the yes and I'll give you the no. The yes part is, well, let's back up. The question, I think, for council comes down to who's really the authority on how to do elections? In other words, does Cindy as the clerk have that discretion already? Or does the council want to oversee and dictate terms? For example, the hours, right? Is that Cindy's discretion, or would council like some say in what those hours will be? She and I have talked about that. You know, it's an interesting separation of powers question, right? It's really probably more a city clerk function, but she runs it through you because she wants you to know what's happening and be well informed and understand that this is her challenge to meet now with the proposal that was passed. Obviously, I would not let her move forward if I felt it was illegal to do it. If it's legal to do it, then it comes back to the yes and no. Is it her discretion to just go ahead and do it? She's the city clerk. Or does council want to say whether or not the city clerk can do it? Because it's a local election, she's not mandated to do it by law.
Well, I would propose that within the confines of whatever the proposal 22-02 allows her to do, that she be able to do it. I mean,
But therein lies the trick.
okay.
22-2 is silent on whether or not you can, should, or may do this for a local election.
As of right now, until we get direction from
Yes.
the state of Michigan. So we could fashion, to the extent that the state of Michigan allows it to occur, at her discretion, within the confines of whatever the state of Michigan, or within the parameters that have been allowed by the state of Michigan. In other words, if they're silent, she gets to choose, as long as it's within the parameters. That way, again, she doesn't have to come back to us. I think that's a lot better than have her have to come back again. I mean, that would
What if
be,
the state says no?
then we don't do it.
Well, because it's her burden to she's the one that's got to do it again, so it is her job. I mean, everything you said, I'm like, that's her discretion, that's why we hired her.
And there is a very good possibility the state won't give her a straight answer.
Uh-huh.
They don't have to yet.
And that's okay.
That's realistically what's going to happen.
Then we won't do it.
Right, right, and we get that. I mean, I think your motion about it being crystal clear is important as it relates to the resolution, but the motion, or not your motion, the resolution, but the council's motion should be that we would direct our city clerk to implement early voting in accordance with the parameters that are given out by the state of Michigan before the November election or even before the February election, once that information becomes available.
I would say within the parameters allowed by law.
Okay.
You can make that motion anytime. It's not part of the resolution, right?
Right, but it would just mean
Yeah.
that she doesn't have
Yeah,
to come
that's-
back again in case they're proactive and say they can do it. She doesn't have to give the 60-day notice. That was my other question. What are the notice requirements?
So the 60-day is when you would have to adopt the resolution. I would need to send out a notice to each registered voter in the city of Fraser, telling them where our early voting site is. So that's.
So you have to do that before 60 days or after 60 days?
I have to,
Or on the 60th day?
no, the resolution has to be adopted 60 days prior to the election.
Okay,
The notice has to go out to the voters 45 days prior.
okay.
So that was another reason I needed to, if we were going to do it, I needed to get approval now so that I could order the notices and get them printed up and ready to send.
So we could direct a resolution to be executed in accordance with state law if it's allowed, right? That could be the motion, and then one could be drafted and put together, and the mayor could sign it, and then you can move on.
Yes, and with a 45-day notice, if you did approve the location tonight, I mean, even if I didn't use
we
it
are
in
gonna-
November, I still.
I mean, I can't speak for that, but I know we.
But I still would have to send out that notice anyway, so, that's
Okay.
got to go with just the location.
Okay, all right. Well, then we'll vote on this resolution, and then I'll make another motion, and we'll see how it goes.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Comments from the audience? I see none, bring them back. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, can I make a motion? Okay, great. So now I'm going to make a motion to direct our city clerk to be able to draft and execute early voting in accordance with state law, within the parameters of the state law that may or may not become more clear as we move or get closer to the election. Do you want me to start over? You're laughing at me.
Stop, you like,
The word veto is running through my head. I'm going to have to stop this one. We have to figure out a better way. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to direct the city clerk to be able to move forward with early voting and adopt the resolution in accordance with early voting if it's allowed by state law.
How about authorize the city clerk to move
Authorized.
forward with implementation of early voting for the November election of 2023 if authorized by state law?
second.
And to adopt a resolution if necessary. And to have,
She can't adopt one.
no, I mean to have one
We
executed.
could put one together and we could give it to the mayor if necessary. It won't be necessary for the November election, I can tell you that.
Okay,
It might be for the February, it might be. We'll have to look at that closer. Because of the hours and the days, and right now, we're just approving the location tonight, so. But for November, again, guys, this is all, nobody's giving us any direction whether we can even do it. So if we can do it, there are no rules, right? We could pretty much just do it with the 45 days, 30 days. I think we can just make up the rules as we go. There are no rules for this. That's my concern. That's why I want to make sure we can do it. And if we can, what are those rules? So as authorized by law is why I wanted that in your motion. If authorized by law.
right, but my resolution is not just, or my
motion.
motion, sorry. My motion is not for the location. My
No.
motion is to allow her to
Right.
move forward with implementing that which has been allowed by the state of Michigan or allowed by law without having to come back to city council.
That's what he said.
Correct. For the November election.
Well, I thought it would be even broader. I thought it was going to be
from there going forward.
We're going to have a resolution for the other one.
Yeah, I think I don't want it to be a standing resolution for February because we don't know what direction is coming. And
Okay, then it'll just be for
I think this is a
November.
practice run. That's how
Okay.
I keep looking at it.
Then it'll be just for
Okay with
November.
you?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Yes, thank
That's what we talked about, just being a practice run.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you adopting the verbiage that Don used?
I'm adopting the verbiage to make it, so it's just for November.
Authorize the city clerk
Authorize, that's right, the authorization.
to implement early voting for the November 2023 election, if authorized by law, or if allowed by law.
Motion and second, Cindy, 9:15. So you have it clear.
Yeah, literally.
What?
So you can watch what Don said.
Oh, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I have 9:13
I
written
said it
here.
the same twice.
You did, I'm really impressed.
Okay.
Thank you, Don. I got a deposition tomorrow, you want to come?
How can I help?
Any comments, questions from the audience?
He doesn't even need a court reporter to read it back.
Back to council, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Thank you.
Carries. Item K, public comment policy review. Mr. Alt, do you want to start us off with this one?
Making notes, 1 second.
Okay.
Sure. So I believe this is on the agenda to just give council an opportunity to talk about public comment and the rules and regulations that go along with it. And so I'll give you a very brief talk about the Open Meetings Act and what it is, and then obviously it'll be a free-form, I think, discussion for all of you, because it's a policy review, really, for all of you to see how it's working, what you like about it, what you don't, what you might want to change or tweak or fix, and you can all have thoughts on that. The Open Meetings Act is very limited. It just requires that the public have an opportunity to participate at an open meeting under reasonable rules set by the public body. So you can set rules for time. You can set rules for announcing your name. You can set reasonable rules for decorum. There's a lot of different reasonable rules that you can set that have been approved by the Attorney General's office or have been approved by courts over the years through litigation. There was an interesting, the timing of this is just coincidental. There was an article in the paper today or yesterday in one of the Grosse Pointe school districts, and their board was debating a policy shift. I think they were looking at it more from the standpoint of our current policy is keeping us here till 3 a.m. because there's a lot of people that have a lot to say. So we're going to shift that policy. We're going to do something different as far as maybe pre-registration, or we're going to cut it off after an hour, or they have different ideas and they adopted a new policy. Time will tell if it's the right policy or if it works. But for purposes of your discussion tonight, your current rules talk about allowing public participation early in case people don't want to stay late. They can talk about an agenda item only. If they want to talk about something not pertinent to the business of the city council, the things you need to get done, they can wait till the end of the meeting and then they can speak. And then we've always had a pretty liberal policy too of each agenda item as it comes up, allowing the public to participate and comment in that forum. Public participation has never been typically a Q&A. It's never been an interaction. It's supposed to be directed through the chair. No personal abuse. None of those basic rules, of course, should happen. And also, by strange coincidence, I was just recently wrote a legal opinion for a school district on what to record in the minutes when the public does participate. So I'm very recently, very well familiarized with all of this, and happy to answer any questions, comments, thoughts on what you can or can't do. But that's sort of a short little Open Meetings Act lesson and how it all works. One final point I would mention too is every once in a while somebody might say it's my First Amendment rights you're trampling on. You're not. This is not a public forum as it's known. That legal term refers to historically public places like the steps of the Supreme Court, or a public way, or something that is typically a park or a preacher, something where you can preach and talk to the world. Then there are limited public forums where you have limited rights to speak based on what the government has set up for you. And then there's this. This is a business meeting of the city council. It is not any kind of public forum. It's an Open Meetings Act gift to the public to say you guys can come and you can participate and the public body can tell you how. So just keep that in mind too, that it's really an Open Meetings Act discussion, but really it's a local policy choice and a local policy talk. And with that, I'm here for questions and thoughts.
I'll just give you a little history since I've been up here. We actually tried changing this once before. That's why we actually put 2 in there. We did it on the agenda items. We added that one because people couldn't stay late because meetings were running late, but it had to be the agenda items. And then way back when we did try a public to be heard at the beginning of the meeting, but like you said, it's just addressing the chair, and they're bringing up everything from chicken coops to taxes on this, and it got so overwhelming. Then council wanted to say something, and it reactions, and it just got so far out of control that the business of the city took a lot longer to do because people were bringing up anything and everything. If you set the rules that, yeah, okay, they can speak, but no one can answer them, and nobody does, then it can go quickly. But then, I don't want to sit up here and someone's got a complaint or a question, and I sit there and just, you know, I hate to do that, but like I said, even like the gentleman who just sat here and brought up the school taxes, that's where you'll get a lot of that kind of stuff, and it doesn't stop. And we tried it for, I think, 2 or 3 months, and then we went back to the other way of doing it because it just, and I wasn't sitting in his chair, I was just a council person, but it was.
Just?
Wow.
No, I mean, I had no say. I mean, it was like, it wasn't my idea to. Actually, mine's lower, I think.
Last time I checked, we all got 1 vote.
Let's keep it that way.
way.
He controls the button.
Councilman Sutherland.
I had reached out to Don about this recently because I did have a resident reach out that came to speak at a few meetings and waited until the very end and was asking about, you know, why we do it in this forum and if there was an opportunity where they wanted to speak on non-agenda items that, you know, that they would maybe have the opportunity to do so. So I reached out to Don and he gave me a little lesson also, but I thought it would just be a good opportunity for us to talk about it, revisit it, because I know that if it were me and I had to sit through 4 hours to talk about one thing, you know, and I don't know that I'd be very happy about that. So just think about it and revisit it.
So are you saying like open up in the beginning, the broad?
First thing would
I really wanted to kind of talk about it. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly,
He
like, I
raises
don't
a
know
good
that I have
point.
an opinion on it
Right.
one way or another. Like, I'm kind of torn because I do feel bad for those individuals and wouldn't want them to have to sit here for 4 hours to talk about one thing or ask one question that's not related to an agenda item. But I don't know that I want to hear about, you know, a laundry list of things before business. So,
It does make it difficult. We've always tried, this council especially, has always tried to tell the people, if you got a question, ask us too. And a lot of people, believe me, I've gotten more calls in the last 4 years sitting up here than ever before. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, and then you guys have responded, everyone's been responding to these people. I know council people responded, so I think they're getting good reactions because I've heard it from people.
well, and I think something that I've seen you do too is like if there is, you know, a lone resident in the
Let them
audience,
go,
right?
right.
Like if
Yeah.
Miss Stein was just sitting there right now and she was, you know, do you have something specific that you would like to talk? I mean, I've noticed you do that as
Very,
well.
very
Yes.
open about
So,
that compared
right.
to past people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Having been over there, I can attest to that.
right. So that was all.
I think it's a decent idea, but being through it, but if someone you know is coming forward like that, and hey, let's just take it right away and deal and get it over with.
Like we do with that guy with the dogs.
Right, if it's specific,
Exactly.
if it's specific and it can be handled, yeah, but if it's just on here is open discussion.
Because, Don, it's our policy, we can change our policy in any meeting. We can we can exempt, as we have done, right? We have allowed people to talk for more than 5 minutes because the room wasn't filled, but I've been where the room was filled and the hallway was filled and the parking lot was filled, and if you didn't have a 5-minute limitation, that meeting would have went on for 4 days. So,
I've seen cities that have had to cut things off at midnight. You know, they have a standing rule that if we're not done with our business at midnight, we're going home. I mean, some places have to adapt to the conditions. One of the things that's really evolved here for us is we don't have residents up in arms usually, because you are so responsive. Everyone is. And
I wouldn't agree with that, but
I think the
okay.
responsiveness keeps people from feeling like they have to show up here and,
Yeah.
and vent on all of you together because they feel like they've been heard.
Yep.
And I think that matters too. And every community has their own heartbeat in that regard. You know, some city councils or school boards may not want to be responsive off the record. They don't feel comfortable. They just have a policy, whatever it is. But I haven't seen in 5 years now, and certainly previous, I have not seen a clamoring for early participation. Yes, I do see that there are regulars that have to wait a long time. So maybe being more liberal with that when there's a few people in the room. But beyond that, I can tell you this, Elaine and I talked a little bit about it. The current policy actually, I think in some ways, dissuades some extraneous noise that isn't really for you. We've had people show up and then realize they're not going to get to speak for about 2 or 3 hours, and they leave. And it's not noise you should have had to hear. So, there's pros and cons to everything, right? And every policy.
It does, and it is, like, even Amy agrees, believe me, we sit up here and there's people that don't even call on people.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Violate your rights.
Yeah, because I thought our policy said we only go to the public when there's a motion, not on every agenda item. I could be wrong, but I mean, in the beginning, I read the policy back when I was new. And I'm very happy going to, I think that you, as a mayor, have made it even more inclusive. And so I guess, because you said that, I was writing down what the rules were, because I was like, well, what are the rules? So I am very, because you have been compared to, I mean, I've sat there and not gotten an opportunity to come, they've talked about, PA 33 is a perfect example, right? When you're talking about cutting this or cutting that. But because a motion wasn't made, it didn't go out to audience.
It's each agenda item.
Okay, good.
Very specific to each agenda item. They may speak for up to 5 minutes if they haven't spoken in that early part.
Perfect.
On
So
agenda.
I don't know if we changed it, which is awesome, but I definitely think the more opportunities, but I do agree, getting rid of the white noise is,
I think that this was a discussion that we had after all the stuff with PA 33 and the people who would just pontificate about nonsense. It was trying to, because I mean, the meetings went on, well, you were there. The meetings went on forever.
O'clock in the morning.
Yes, and even when I was on council for the first 2 years,
Yep.
these meetings were like, I mean, midnight was like the standard time. It
Midnight was early.
outrageous. Huh?
midnight was early.
Well, I think the latest we were ever here was, I think, 1:30, 2
No.
o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, after 2.
Yeah, later.
3 o'clock I got home.
3 o'clock.
Oh, yeah. 2:30 we were talking about the cars, the take-home cars.
Yeah, we're talking about before then, though.
Oh.
I'm talking about before you were here, when we still.
So I stretched it out, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you did.
Remember the college debacle, and we were here for
The what? College department?
college debacle?
Oh, the Elmida
Yeah.
degrees.
That took for,
Yeah, so, I think, I agree. I think we really are very accessible. So, I mean, I think we've been very accessible to the population, the residents, especially with social media and email and phone calls and all that stuff. I like this. Now, I'm not gonna be here, but I like this.
then we added the old business onto it. We never had that old business before.
Right, right. Returning business, or the old business and, yeah, right. But I do like the fact that citizen participation on all items is at the end.
Yeah.
Because those people who really have something to say, hopefully by the time they have to wait and come here, it's because nobody's paid attention to their problem. And God forbid that happens, because I don't know anybody that's come to unless they want to pontificate about nonsense, where they really have a legit problem and they're, talking to us that no one's responded to.
I had one recently that came to a few meetings.
Yeah, that one.
Well,
Wait, they didn't speak?
No, they did, but I'm saying they waited until the very end.
No, that's what she's saying, that,
Issue.
and
but
we,
did they contact us first and nobody responded?
No, it was responded to.
It was? They didn't like the answer.
It was a little bit different because more evidence came forward, and then pictures were given and all that afterwards, so.
There were some communication
Yeah,
breakdowns
yeah.
and
Okay,
It
well,
was-
that's, I mean, is that the exception to the rule, or is that the norm?
Probably, but that's just why we have this
It
discussion.
kind of is.
Yeah, no, I
I
get
actually
it.
got an email I can forward to you guys. I got one today or yesterday from the gentleman on Winslow.
Yeah, I got it too.
Yeah, we got that, yeah.
But I responded too with Mark, and he came back and says he appreciates.
Yeah, I got that too.
Oh, I didn't know if everyone.
Right, so that person isn't
Then
gonna
that,
necessarily
you know,
be the one
for
that comes
multiple
and
people on
waits.
council to respond.
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
You know, geez.
But
I like the way it is. And like I said, we're very accessible. You're always saying, call us, you know, I mean, I think, like I said, we do make ourselves available for people to talk to and whatnot. So I like the way it is, because I think it's really cut down on the pontification, if you will. I hate to keep using the same word, but I can't figure out another one that really kind
Well,
of
it's
encapsulates.
a word I wouldn't use, so.
issue.
Well, because what's the alternative? Just a open agenda in the beginning? I mean, what do other people do that we don't do?
Oh, there are so many alternatives.
Well-
There's one public comment section. It could be beginning and middle. I've seen it all three ways,
Oh, so really, they literally only get one time to talk through the whole meeting?
the whole meeting.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
A
yeah.
lot of cities only do
Well,
one.
that's called the school board meetings, if
Yeah,
you've ever
school
gone.
boards. School boards are
And
very
you have to fill out a card
very
ahead of time.
religious about that.
And you have
yeah.
to write down what you're going to speak on, and your time limited.
Not necessarily the topic so much on the writing, but you're supposed to register.
No, they want to know, because they came up to me when I didn't write it down on purpose, and they said, "What are you here to talk
Right,
about?" And I said, "You'll find out at the end of the meeting."
Uh-huh. Yeah, they can't force you to do that.
No, because I knew that. That's
But, yeah, first, front, beginning, middle. Some allow it on agenda items, some don't. Some hybrid things, you know, you can have a minute at the beginning and then 4 at the end, you know. I mean, the sky's the limit in terms of how you want to do it. But I've seen it all, so there's no right or wrong way.
The only other saving grace, I would say, this council, the 7 of us, the meetings are very much shorter, conciser, and even when we disagree, so we're done, you know, we're done by 9:30, and we're sitting here having a very important academic debate, which is extending the meeting, but the business is done, and
we're not pontificating.
I might be.
I may have.
We used to pontificate.
Well,
Not so much anymore.
Well, that was really good dialogue. Anybody else having? No, I'm just kidding.
wrapping it up. Well, what do you want to change? I guess that's $1 million
No,
question.
I really just.
No, I mean,
literally
genuinely.
wanted to discuss it in an open meeting because I had gotten that resident feedback. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily think anything needs to change.
Yeah, because I'm not opposed to
I just,
changing it.
I thought it was important, and this person, you know, wanted to be heard, that we just talk about it.
Yeah.
So I think it's value
Not
added
bad.
to spend
Yeah.
5-10 minutes, whatever, talking about
I
it.
just think really good communication would just makes a difference. You're like about the public meeting today, Elaine. We met earlier, I called the business people way before this and explained it to them all. A couple, they just came to give us an update, and that was it. So
Yeah.
instead of packing the room, we get in here and every story again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they have legitimate concerns.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I just feel bad that someone felt like they weren't heard. And the other thing is,
Didn't feel,
well, they had to wait a long time to be heard, and that is too bad. But when we're on a break, we're accessible. Just let us go to the bathroom, then you can
Well,
talk.
at any time, really. I mean.
Well,
it's
yeah,
not like
but I just mean
we
even like
avoid
while they're
people.
sitting there, like,
Well, I do, but
Yeah.
most of you don't avoid people not
Mr. Odell, do you have a comment?
Yeah, just real quick. So can you, we have our standard policies, agenda items and at the end, but let's say you see there's a bunch of people in here, can you readjust it beforehand, say we'll allow non-agenda items for 2 minutes at the beginning, first agenda, and then 2 minutes if we feel the room needs it?
subject, just a motion, right? Motion with the simple.
Just,
the ability to read the room.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of you made that statement, I was just a council person, right? But part of the responsibility, being the chair of the meeting, is to read the room. And the chair has a lot of discretion to flex the policy, and only the council by a vote could override that. So if the council's comfortable with his flexing, or her, if it's a different mayor, that's fine, and nothing will ever be said about it. I won't intervene. If in fact the council wishes to do something differently and they feel the mayor's being too rigid about something, the council can make a motion and second and either suspend the policy, and modify the policy, amend it, or just amend something at that moment in time. So there's a lot of
I
ways to
ask
do it.
everybody.
I
you
think
guys
you're
okay
way
saying
too flexible. I want you to tighten it
I'll learn
down. I
something
want to be
today.
half an hour in and out.
I think you got to read the room, like you said. If there's a topic that's popped up recently or something, maybe give them that ability. And then, so 5 minutes is our limit on agenda items and at the end. But but I think there was some confusion regarding public hearings. So is that a 5-minute rule as adopted, or is that a kind of an unlimited time? Because
Unless we state otherwise.
it's 5 minutes even
It's
for
5
public.
on any agenda item. A public hearing is an agenda item.
Okay.
But the lawyer in me wants to let you all know that a public hearing is also taking testimonial evidence and information in, so there should be a lot more flexibility in public hearings, because you're making a decision potentially in that public hearing that could be subject to a court appeal. So I always want to be sure that public hearings, and it doesn't really apply to city councils that much, it's more zoning and planning, but when it does apply to you, I do want to be flexible that we collect information from people who have information to share, as long as they're on topic, right? So if they go over the 5, I think we need to be flexible. But the way the policy is written, it's 5 minutes on any agenda item.
That's why it's important not everyone to try to address that person, because they feel, well, then I get another 5.
Yeah.
Then I get another 5, then I get another 5. So we try to listen to them all, and then, but yeah, I think we've been pretty liberal. Okay. Next item,
Flexen. That's our,
Returning business.
returning business, we have none, report of city administration.
All right, first and foremost, I'd like to thank Mary, my assistant, and also Marie Salufo. They were instrumental in helping out with the parade. Working behind the scenes, working in cleanup, I don't think that they were really given the credit that they were due on behalf of recreation. So I just wanted to make that very clear to everyone that they were a huge part of the parade and the success of it. The fire open house at the recreation meeting, it was discussed, and having that in conjunction with the Fall Fest. The date that we were looking at that point in time has since changed.
Yes, yeah, I actually met with the director and the fire captain today, and it's gonna be October 8th, 12 to 3. And as we get closer, we'll come out with more information in the flyer with all the events. And
Yep.
we pretty much planned most of it out at this point.
I just
It's a little
wanted
bit
to,
early, but we'll get everything out.
yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that anyone that had attended that meeting, and hopefully you can kind of help share and spread
Yes.
the word on that, that we have pinned down that date now.
Yeah. That's going to be spreading the word.
And then as far as the craft days, thanks certainly to Chris Cook for putting together those craft days. We had a lot of people participate. I know that Dana's got a rock painting event coming up this Saturday. I'm talking, we've had like more than 50 people to each of these events. So they've been very well attended, and certainly looking forward to more of that moving forward. As far as our HVAC system, the rooftop units have been delivered to the contractor. So I know at one point in time we were talking about October, so they have them now. So hopefully we'll be able to move forward and finish this project up a little bit sooner than October. So keep your fingers crossed on that. Kelly Road construction is slated to be started the 21st of this month. So get ready for those barrels and all the construction traffic and everything that goes along with that. It is scheduled to be completed by November 17th, obviously weather permitting, so keep that in mind.
So just if you didn't know, the last open thing I had with Candace Miller at Garfield is gonna be totally torn down now at the corner, and they have to install a new complete ventilation sewer system. So Garfield, there's gonna be no left turns.
Garfield and 15,
Yeah,
yeah.
no left turns, no turning, it's just gonna, with Kelly, it's just gonna be a nightmare. So, just so everybody knows,
You're clear.
be patient.
I know that we have had a lot of problems at McKinley and some of our other parks with vandalism and fights, and ever since I have started day one, I've been working on getting cameras in these parks. It has not been an easy ask because there are so many different organizations and groups that are involved in this. DPW, DPS, our IT contractors, the camera company. I feel like I'm forgetting someone, but we're getting much closer to fruition of this project, and I am very excited about that. The steps hopefully are few remaining. So definitely looking forward to getting that because it's something that we have needed for quite a while. And I can't wait until we get them in and the signs go up that this property is being monitored. So looking forward to that.
You just put signs up anyway.
Nope.
Why?
It gives a false sense of security. So it's not recommended.
Got it.
Yeah. The building clerk, I think I had mentioned to everyone that Jennifer, our building clerk, had put in her notice and her last day is next week. We do have a new person that's going to actually be starting and shadowing her for a couple days while she is still here, so she'll be here tomorrow. Her name is Kayshee Johnson, so very excited to have her come in and be able to learn from someone that is still in the position. The new finance director, Angeli Bansel, starts on Monday. So very, very excited about that. And thank you for your support for helping keep these temporary people around to help really train her, bring her up to speed, especially with U.S. government accounting practices. So I'm very excited about that. And I look forward to the day when I can actually do my job instead of other people's jobs. Like I said, it has been a good experience because I have learned a lot about these other departments that I have not known to this point. It's certainly been an eye-opening opportunity, but I would much prefer to have good, dependable, trustworthy people in all of these positions so that I don't have to know everything or micromanage the person in the department. That's all I have.
Councilwoman Sutherland.
So Elaine, you already covered a couple of mine, but I'm just going to cover them again.
Sorry.
You're okay. You're good. So first, I just want to say thank you to all the business owners in the industrial park for coming again and just for their collaboration and their feedback and desire to work together. I just absolutely love seeing that. And when I walked in and saw them here today, it was actually a different vibe too. They're all sitting in the lobby. We're all like, oh hey. So just thank you to them. Thank you to Chris Cook for the craft events that she's been putting on at McKinley, like Elaine said, like Ms. Levin said, sorry. They have been very, very well attended. I mean, it was wall-to-wall people last night in the park, and there was music, and there was not a cell phone in sight because kids were playing, parents were engaging. It was a lot of fun, and it was great to see everybody out there. I will be doing rock painting at the gazebo this Saturday to build up our rock garden right in front here from 12 to 3. Rock painting is not just for children. Everybody should come and paint a rock to put in our garden. Patrice isn't here, and I saw something about Bumgardner House.
Oh, I got it.
So I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I better bring it up. So Bumgardner House is having their barn sale Sunday, August 13th, and they are looking for volunteers. They said that they especially need help early in the morning to set up the sale and move items from inside to outside. So they were looking for 8 a.m. for volunteers. The sale is from 9 to 4. And there was an email address, Mrs. Van, I think, and it's Marty, MARTI VANEENENAAM @FraserK12.org is the contact to volunteer. So volunteer if you can, go support the sale at the Bumgardner House. I also got feedback when I was at the event at McKinley last night from a resident that there has been increased public safety presence at the park. So Director Kretschmer, I wanted to thank you for that because I know that the residents were very grateful of the increased presence and they said that it has helped with some of the issues that have been going on there and just very grateful for our public safety department. So thank you very much for that. The Fraser Public Library is open at its new temporary location at 15 Mile and Hayes. I know they've been posting that they're having events too. I think they're having a movie night maybe this weekend, but if you check out their website or their Facebook page, they have all of that information on there. Everybody have a safe Labor Day because believe it or not, that is coming up shortly. I can't even believe it. And then a safe and learned upcoming school year because that is only 17 days away. Yes, take them back. So, and that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moransky.
Yeah, so just following up, because Patrice, although she's not here, she did send me the Historical Society, but they are accepting donations for the barn sale Wednesday from 5:30 to 7:30. So if you want to donate I'm assuming, again, reach out to either Marilyn or Marty Van Eye, who will be happy to take your stuff. I want to thank Sherry Stein, who has now sat through, since putting in her name for city council, sat through 2 meetings. Well, through full meetings. You sat through full meetings since I've been on council. And to be in the room, I've watched at home for 20 years before, and then I came to the meetings when it 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. But to be in the room is so important if you really want to understand what's going on. And I get that people can't, but I appreciate that you're putting in the effort ahead of getting on council, because you want to hit the ground running. And I hope that all of the candidates that run or are running want to hit the ground running, because we have momentum and we are, less and like literally it's smaller and smaller and smaller, because it's like check, check, check. And that leads to the road bond, and it failed, and that's okay. We came up with an option. We put it out to the residents. They voted no. They have been heard. There will not be additional allocations to the city street funds, which means the neighborhood subdivisions, absent some other service getting cut. I'm not willing to cut the police. I'm not willing to cut DPW. I don't know if other people are, but so that's the service we're going to have. The patching and the piecemeal approach, that's what we're going to have. And that's okay. We're just not going to be able to get ahead on the road bond, and we're going to move forward. We're going to move forward still with the special assessment district. I feel confident that we're going to find a solution, and I agree. Wow, what a difference communicating does, right? Both sides are listening, so I want to thank them, obviously, for coming. It's easy to blame, and it's easy to say, you should this and you should that, but it's really important, especially if you've sat up here. We all have the ability to say, hey, we should do this, or we should do that. And when you blame and you didn't say we should do this, or why are we not doing that, that's not sincere. And that's not you doing your job. So when you see a problem, you raise it. You ask a question. That's what I want to serve on council with. And that's, blame us all you want, but get the facts and be part of the solution, because we don't have all the answers. There's a lot of stuff I don't know. And I'm very willing to listen to everything. And I look forward to people telling me how we can fix the city without raising taxes and without cutting services. I've been on council for 4 years. I've been very proud to every year decrease PA 33, maintain our services, bring back some services, but things cost more, and I look forward to, if I get reelected, continuing the path. But I want people to be part of the solution, and I'll listen to the blame, but it doesn't do any good if you're sitting up here or you sat out there and you don't say, hey, why are we not fill in the blank? So that's all.
Thank you.
And thanks for the Labor Day reminder.
I don't have much, just a couple things I want to dovetail on. The business owners, I thought it was really great to hear their stories at the last meeting. I didn't get through the whole meeting, but I did get through quite a bit of it. But it was really great, because I feel like this is the beginning of a new relationship with the industrial sub. And I think it's something that the city really should continue to capitalize on, because the wealth of resources that the industrial sub brings to the table is something that we really are not utilizing. And this is a great opportunity, now that we have names of people and we're creating relationships with them, to move forward so that maybe we can, have them involved more often, have them participate in things, get their business names out there. I think this is a great opportunity for us to be able to give back in that way. And I don't want to see it get squandered by, this and then it goes away. I'd like to see the city continue to develop that and create and, maintain that relationship. Even if we did like beautification things, whatever, like I know we do the Fraser Fame Awards, but I mean just things that make people feel good, like awards for best kept whatever. So the point that I'm getting at with regard to that is just, let's try to keep it going. Let's not just let this fizzle out into nothingness, because they have so many, they're a wealth of resources. And I think we're doing ourselves a huge disservice as a city, because I feel like they're on an island and we haven't been, this is a great opportunity. So I don't want to see that squandered away. Same thing with the road bond. You know, one of the things that I talked about last time was, you know, if you're not happy with the where you live, you're not happy with the city, I can't stress enough. You know, we have an election coming up, and literally, we have one competition. That's it. Everybody else is going to get reelected. It's like deafening to me that on Facebook, we hear everyone complaining and carrying on and this and that about the city, but you don't even know what's going on. You act like this is the first time anyone's ever had an idea about what's going on in the city. Like, you know, you're brilliant. Well, guess what? If you came to a city council meeting and you got the history, you wouldn't be listening to your neighbors carry on about nonsense. You'd know. You'd have some background. Oh, you might be educated. You may not agree with it, and that's okay. You don't have to agree with it. But I bet you won't be so quick to judge. So once again, we're going to have an election, and we're going to have no competition. And not to say that there's anything wrong with the people that are up here that have made this city, you know, move forward in a better way. But all you people, why don't you do something with all of your opinions? And I know I'm blowing smoke because literally I'm at a city council meeting and there's one person in the audience. It's just disgusting. Like, you need to have some accountability for the city that you live in. I was thinking about that today when I was gardening, as I needed to clear my head. All these people live in these nice homes, and all they want to do is complain about the government. They don't even know what they're talking about. They don't even want to get involved. They don't even want to volunteer to do things. We have the same 15 people that show up. It's disgusting. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves. Seriously. I'm not afraid to say that. I've put myself out there. These people have put themselves out there. Ms. Stein is going to put herself out there. It's important. We don't have to agree, but try to make a change. Try to be the change. We talk about that all the time. We teach our kids that kind of stuff. Be the change. Oh, my neighborhood, I don't know what they're doing. They're definitely not the change. Well, except for these two gentlemen here. They decided to do something different. So why don't you take a good hard look at yourself in the mirror instead of complaining on Facebook about your future? Or, you know, better yet, why don't you move? Just get out. Take your negativity with you. I'm doing this because you know why? In a few months, I won't be here. And I can't wait because I have put the time in to do the right things, and I'm very proud of the work that I have done. And I don't care. I don't give two thoughts about the fact that you don't like me. Doesn't matter to me because I know where my heart was, and I know that what I did for this city was in the best interest of this city. I didn't do it because I was waiting for you to like me. I did it because it was the right thing to do. And yeah, I don't care what you think. With that, there was a buzzkill over here to my right about the kids going back to school.
To some people, maybe.
No, I don't want I love my kids. It always breaks my heart.
I don't think she meant it like that.
I don't mean it like that. I just mean it like, it always breaks my heart when the kids got to go back to school because I always find the summers to be so rewarding and so much fun and doing so many great things with my kids. And, you know, it breaks my heart because I wish I could keep them on vacation with me forever. Now, when I say that, there are times they get on my nerves, don't get me wrong. But the majority of the time, they do not. And I just really dread them going back to school. So with that, have a great rest of your summer, and we'll see you in September.
I felt the same way when they got married. No, just kidding.
Right? See, I know.
I was a horrible empty nester with Mr. Odell.
I'd just like to thank all the volunteers that came out and made the parade a huge success. We were scrambling at the last minute, but it went smooth as could be, and it was very successful. Lions had a great carnival. Fireworks were great. Everybody pitched in. Had an unfortunate incident with one of our police officers with a young hooligan, but that's going to happen no matter where. But everybody came together and made it a very successful community event, which we don't have too many of, and I'd like to see more. And I went to the Rock Paint in McKinley, not the other day, but a couple days ago, and it was nice to see there was probably about 50-plus kids there, parents. Park was full, and families enjoying their time together as the summer worn down. So it's nice to see that. I want to see more of that coming forward, because it really does bring the community together more to have joint events like this. But it was very successful to all the volunteers, and I'd just like to appreciate everybody that was involved to make it a success, from government down to our Lions Club that puts money right back into our community every year. But otherwise, have a good Labor Day, and enjoy the rest of your summer.
Thank you. Councilwoman Blakey.
Well, I cannot follow the sincerity of Mrs. Suzanne at this point. And like Pat just said, he thanked everyone, and everybody said a bunch of nice stuff, memories. I'm sitting here, they're memories. But I would like to thank especially Marie Salufo and Mary. Now, Marie is the kind of person, she and Paul have been involved for many years, and I am grateful that you mentioned them. And so I'm just going to piggyback on what you said, that they do deserve, to be acknowledged. Samantha, I apologize with your name. You were so priceless the way you look back at Sherry, thinking you look like, oh, please let there be a Denise in the room. And I don't even know a Denise, really. So I apologize for that. And everyone have a great holiday. See you next month. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a couple things, maybe three. The parade I thought went very well. I do have a funny comment to make on the public safety side is, I've been driving for 30 years, and this year the director was able to put both trucks, the ambulance, we had cars, the motorcycles, and the bicycles, and I literally had, I swear to God, 3 or 4 people said, "Is the only way you got that is because you're the mayor, you got to use everything?" And I said, "No, I just use my firefighter security." But everybody noticed it, because it's always just been us doing it. And I mean, us, part of the public safety is the firefighters, but it was really well received to see everybody out there and our assets out there. It was a really nice display, so I wanted to thank you for that. And we gave away 80 pounds of candy. It's like,
Wow.
wow. This is crazy. The striping on the senior citizens apartments, is that still due, or is it planned, or is it part of their plan?
It
The
is something
parking?
that's supposed to be done, yeah.
Oh.
I actually thought that had already been completed. Okay, maybe they got rained out.
Yeah, I haven't seen it unless I missed it the last couple of days. I've been tied up, but wanted to ask that.
And we still have some punch list items to get done here, as well as a couple other little parking spots that they missed, so, and then under the carport here, so they will be back for doing that.
Okay. And then I've heard a lot of things about this water fight coming up. It's going to be fun. I didn't understand the dirt and the mud and how we're going to do that. The DPW bringing a bunch of dirt
So my
in and-
understanding is, at this point, is that DPW is going to be tearing out a part of the grass, and that will be kind of a additional part to the water fight, so they can have this area where they can kind of play in the mud, and we'll have the water and everything there. And then when everything is all said and done, they'll reseed. In this area, it really needed to be pretty much torn up and regraded because with all the carnival equipment and everything, it needs to be regraded anyhow. So it's an area that was really already in need of some work. So it was kind of a idea, I guess, that originated out of that kind of fluid through discussion. Certainly, if kids want to participate and, you know, if their parents want them to participate, that's fine. I would recommend maybe wearing some dingy shoes, clothes, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not sure at this point in time what they have planned for any type of services to go along with the mud pit, like bathrooms, changing rooms, anything like that. I'm not sure if that's part of the plan or not. But it is really just kind of a extra additional thing as part of this water fight.
Okay, well, I just hoping they're not bringing yards of dirt and then we have to, tear it all out and then.
Yeah, it's something that really needs to be done anyhow. So what they're really going to be doing is just kind of taking that grass away. And then I think they're going to have like a rototiller or something that's going to just kind of break it up. And then once that's done, they'll straighten it all out and then reseed.
I think that's kind of just a quick segue into why council would like updates from some of these things that go on, so everyone knows what's going on. I hear positive and negatives, like, oh my God, you guys are spending all this money to bring in dirt. I don't know, can't answer the question.
Nope, no bringing in
So,
dirt.
But it'd be nice if Recreation would just update us or with their plans and stuff like that. We've always asked.
It's been a fluid thing that seems to have been changing a little bit on the fly.
Right, okay.
I think it didn't even start until the last meeting, so from the last meeting to this meeting, it was,
Changed.
nope, created, agreed to, and now coming close to being finalized.
Which is one of the things that I really have directed the recreation coordinator to have a 90-day rolling.
Yeah.
Right, that's what we talked about, right?
Yep,
Exactly
yep.
what I'm saying.
When is it scheduled?
It's on the 19th.
Of September, or
August?
August? Okay.
Okay.
At Steffens, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The far way back part of Steffens.
Sure. By the VFW? Back by that, like
Back by the pavilion, right?
Okay. By the soccer field. Okay.
Last thing is just to let council know, Tuesday, I'm going to be going to the VFW. The Veterans of Foreign Wars National President is coming in, and they're doing a ceremony for someone who died too. But on behalf of council, we did a proclamation and banding together for the Veterans Day. Since we do so much for them, we're going to present with a proclamation from the city. And that's Tuesday. I'll be doing that. So, and that's it. Oh, I'm a proud pappy of a 10-pound baby boy. He's already putting a fire helmet on already, so he's ready to go. Citizens to be heard.
Nothing?
You don't want to say nothing? You don't want to, like, tell us
Are you
anything?
feeling okay?
No, you can pontificate all you like. We got all night.
Okay.
Oh,
Director, you're good? Okay, so need a motion.
motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Have a great week.
No, it was like,